Hello, one and all, to the live stream for round 7 of the WSCC or World Sports Car Challenge. Today we are at the very fast and technical circuit of Road America, much wider than its cousin that we visited 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, but still a great racetrack, offering tricky corners for some of the teams to tackle here this afternoon. Only a 3-hour race for this round, so it's going to be all down to sprint racing for the teams. As soon as you get out on those track limits, just put your foot down and get on with the job. And interestingly, just a few moments ago before we went live, it was raining here on circuit, so that's going to affect our LMP2 field as they line up to get their qualifying started. You can see some of the spray coming off the back of the cars as they go by even now. So the GTEs had a fairly nice qualifying session. They missed out on most of the rain, only affecting the last 5 or 10 minutes or so of their session. But it's going to be the LMP2s that suffer most here this afternoon with the rain. But the question obviously is, will it return for the race? It has now stopped, but the surface is slightly wet. It will dry in good time. But whether or not it's going to rain during the race is going to be a big question. Right now, those go down to the qualifying for the GTEs, go through the order for you and find out who has done a good enough job to secure that podium spot. In pole position is Charlie Rigo in the 97, which is on-off racing with a 2:01.453, and behind by just 0.1 second is Chris Evert in the 37 car with the Cheeble Hawk team with a 2:01.589 on the board for him. Then we have Gregor Spulat in the 88 with a 2:01.956 in third, rounding out the podium positions in GTE qualifying. And then close behind as well is Turk Hakkinen in that 13 car, 0.559 seconds off the pace for him with a 2:02 dead. Then we have the number 5 car, new entrance for this round with a 2:02.263. And in P6 we have Lucas Lynchen in the number 40 car with a 2:02 2.587. Alicio Filito, he takes 7th place on the board with a 2:03.048, and then with Kieran Sharp in the 23 Aldis Motorsport car in P8 with a 2:03.5. In 9th we have Mantis Rikas in the 82 Rookie Monster C7, and then we have the number 10, which is a new entrant for this round, with Milan Rakovic in the Balkan Porsche. Then the 32 lines up in P11, that's Autonaut C7 GTE, and then we have Simon Marshall in the Rookie Monster Porsche as well, lining up in P12. P13 is 76 Flat Out Racing Team, and then rounding out the last 2 positions in class is Claudio Brera in the 77 MRT Racing car, and the 79 with Massimiliano Ferrari in the Nitrous Oxide Racing Team. As you can see in front of you, we've got all of the LMP2s going around the circuit for their half an hour of racing, or qualifying rather, and out in front is currently the 61 from Iceberg Racing with a 1:54.784 on the board, obviously in these wet conditions. Still waiting for a lot of the teams to come by the start-finish line, of course, so we still have the 69, 41, 42, 14, 25 and 35 to set their lap times, and that's when we'll truly find out where they stand in the LMP2 field. But Lorenzo Risi in the 44, currently in 4th place with a 1:57.4. Maybe we found his Achilles heel, where he's not able to race under wet conditions perhaps, but I'm sure he'll find a way to get to the top of that field once more. Tony Jansen is in 2nd place at the moment with the 33 car, 1:55.4, and it's looking like they're struggling to get some grip in these cars for the time being. Of course, in Wisconsin, in real life at the moment, it is actually snowing. So that is why we may have seen the small period of rain that's appeared on the circuit, and it should dry up before we get to go green racing. .44, Lorenzo Risi takes pole position at the moment with a 1:54.5, which isn't exactly a lot faster than what the 61 Iceberg Racing Team has done. Usually they have quite a large gap between the two of them, going across the start-finish line, but not this time by, which is quite interesting. The rain really allowing some of the other LMP2 teams to catch up to the front of the pack. Tony Jansen goes fastest again, 154.3. That's 0.186 seconds quicker than Lorenzo Risi in that Reborn Racing Team car. Of course, they're currently leading the championship after 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. They had a great performance on circuit, and they currently lead by just a few points ahead of the number 41 car, which is the Fair Racing Team. They haven't set a lap time yet. Pim van Ark is in charge of that car for the time being, and he's on intermediate tyres with a lot of the grid as well. Following suit. Lorenzo Risi opting for softs at this moment in time, though, probably looking for that dry racing line that's slowly becoming a factor. For those of you that want to use the live racing, it is now in chat. For those of you who like to follow the lap times and all of the tactics and look at what they're doing in terms of stint times. If you want to have a look at the point standings of the championship at the moment, that is also on a link being posted into the chats as well. Of course, we are currently on round 7 at the moment, which is Road America, so the results sheets will show you round 6. I can tell you now, though, that the current leading boy is the 44 is on 188 points, and that is just 2 points shy of the 41 in the Fair Racing Team. So we're extremely close at this stage of the championship between these two cars. And as I say, that Pim van Ark goes fastest in that 41 car with a 152.538. With those drying track conditions, it looks like it is time to go over to the intermediates, because that's exactly what he was on when he set that lap time. Of course, Lorenzo Risi, we know that he is on the soft tyre. He's trying to, he was hoping at least, that in the next 20 minutes or so before the qualifying session ends, he's going to get an opportunity to get those tyres into optimal temperatures and get them working for him. But yeah, the intermediate tyre seems to be the stronger option at this point of qualifying. Yeah, Lorenzo Risi not having any luck there, coming into the exit of turn 7, it looked like. And just going a bit wide there. Hugh North is currently sitting in P4 at the moment with the Rookie Monster LMP2 car. He's doing a great job with a 154.614 as well. And he is also on the soft compound tyre. So it's going to display that the 44 and the 83 are pretty much on balance in terms of their performance in these current conditions. Both setting times within 0.2 seconds of one another. But yeah, looks like they need to have a shot at intermediate tyres at least until that track condition improves ever so slightly for them. And of course, this is crucial information for the teams going ahead into the race, because we know it's going to be quite a high chance of a downpour at some stage in the next 3 hours or so. So they could be using this as vital information as to how the cars are handling in wet conditions. Coming through the fast left-hand kink, or right-hand kink rather, sorry. And through Canada corner, which is turn 11. Oh, and he's lost the rear end of that LMP2. Saves it just about. How he did that on soft slicks, I have no idea, but well done to him for holding on to that car. Could have been a very nasty way to end into the barrier. Of course, Road America has a lot of runoff here on either side of the circuit, but it also has a very few narrow corners as well, with concrete barriers lining either side, especially down the main straight here. You can see the pit wall extremely close to the actual racing parameters, and that can cause some issues if you're going 2 or 3 wide down there when the traffic actually starts to build. Things still staying the same though, other than the fact that the 69 of Fabian Walter, who's also on intermediate tyres for Hansa Racing, has gone up into P2, 153.295, and that has actually demoted the 44 of Lorenzo Risi is now down into P5 after the last few laps have gone by, with Hugh North and Tony Jansen now moving up into P3 and P4 respectively. Iceberg Racing going down ever so slightly into P6, 154.784 for them. And then we have the Seawolf Netrace Motorsport team as well, close behind with their car as well. They're currently on intermediates. last lap 154.838, and then with Ricardo Beutmann in the 155s as well, he's lining up in 8th place. Very wide there for the exit of turn 1 in the 14 car. It's going to cost him a lot of time. There's no way you can gain an advantage by running that off, that far off the circuit. And he's decided to put that one in the bin because he knows he's made such a big error. There's no point continuing that. 17 minutes left in qualifying then before we head over to the race. Of course, we do have a 5-minute warm-up session in between that as well. Oh, bit of a lag there. I think someone was rejoining after getting disconnected. Yep, that is the case. Okay, so we actually have David Junt joining us as well in the, I believe that's the IDOS Motorsport car, I'm not too sure. Yes, it is. So David Junt's going to be re-entering this race as well. It's going to probably could do 2.5 hours if I know David, or if I've seen him race before. And we've also got new entrants in the LMP2 class in the form of Trevor Holden. They got their prototype, or Proto Hawk, Team Proto Hawk, on with us as well. They're currently sitting in P8 at the moment with a 154.8, so just goes to show how competitive the class is. Pim van Aert, though, is leading the way quite comfortably. Fabian Walters closed down the gap just ever so slightly. He's broken the 52-second barrier and is 0.280 seconds adrift of securing that pole position. So Pim van Aert doing everything he can. And let's go on board with the driver for one last lap to get an idea of what it's like to go around Road America. So staying over to the left-hand side as he sets his new fastest lap. You want to brake just before the boards, which for some reason disappeared. It's gone a bit wide there actually, running into the first corner, of course, in these wet conditions. But you want to hug that curbing as it will allow you to carry so much speed and get on the throttle early. And then the same again for this one. Stay left as much over as possible. And you want to actually brake later than what you think, because the run down under the, the lorry towards turn 5 is crucial to get an overtaking opportunity. And as soon as the hill drops, then heavy on the brakes down into first gear, which is a bit ambitious. Usually I would prefer to go to second. You can use the curbing on the right hand side in the exit there. Very tricky corner to get right, and a great overtaking opportunity as well. Then it's managing the throttle through this section of corners for the LMP2s. Little lift there as you go through turn 8, and then you go down towards turn 7. Heavy on the brakes once again. Keep over to the right hand side, and it is again same as before, and he's going to exit that lap because he knows he's made quite a few mistakes that time by, and that has finished that flying lap. So we'll go on board with Fabian Walter then, see if he can do the rest of the circuit for us, where we can do our walkthrough. But straight back to turns 2, down on the run towards the Moraine sweep. Once again, he's looking for that braking zone. As soon as the track starts to change colour, heavy on the brakes there. He's staying in second gear, which is what I would have suggested. Oh no, he's actually gone to first as he hit the apex of the corner, and then it's going to be third or second gear. He's opted for second. Carry that speed through and make sure that you get a nice clean run down towards the next set of corners. Little lift in the mid apex, and then use all of the runoff on the left hand side. Once again, brake and go deep into this corner and get a nice clean exit, which he does under the speed field sign. And this is quite a tricky corner to get right. You can lose or gain a lot of time here in this corner. Got to maintain that speed and then wait for that opportune moment to just put your foot down and then commit to the exit of the corner. If you do it right, then you're hitting the curbing on the outside line, and then it's full commitment through this corner as well, which is turns 12. Oh, sorry, it turns 11, the kink, as they call it, and it's full throttle all the way down to Canada corner, turn 12. Once again, a late heavy braking corner for the cars here. Use that grey curbing on the exit, and then back over to the right-hand side, and then carry the speed through turns 13 before you get onto the left-hand side again. Heavy braking once more. It's actually a lot less grip compared to the rest of the circuit there in that last corner. You have to be very careful about your trail braking, but it's just about getting the perfect exit. So brake as late as you can and then slice the corner in half. As he comes across the line with the fastest lap, what an amazing performance there, 151.439, and that's on an intermediate tyre as well. So it's pretty safe to say that the conditions here are beginning to dry and that some of the teams are now going over to the softs. In fact, Pim van Ark has decided that that is the right time to do so. He's currently on a soft set of tyres at the moment. The 44 with Lorenzo Risi, he's still on softs as well. 152.5 for him. So times are beginning now to fall down, and we will see a last-minute dash to the checkered flag to get those really quick lap times in. Off the racing line, there is a bit of spray on the circuit by looks of things, but perfectly manageable by the teams if they decide to stay on the racing line. Should be fine for them. David Junt still hasn't set a time just yet. He's out in the pit lane at the moment, so something may be wrong with that car. I'm not exactly sure, but he's going to have to get a hurry on if he's going to. He's got 12 minutes remaining left in qualifying, which is plenty of time to set a lap. That's not an issue for him, so maybe he's just waiting it out, waiting for the teams to dry the circuit for him, and then he will finally come out and give it a go. And as I say that, he now starts to roll out on to the circuit. Gap between the two fastest teams now 0.064 seconds, and leading the way still Fabian Walter with a 151.439. Good performance from them. Lorenzo Risi still not responding as of yet. He's currently in sector 2 at the moment and just set a green sector time for his car. It's 0.1 seconds slower than Fabian Walter's sector 1 time, so he's got a bit of time to find still a few extra attempts that he can probably gain in that part of the circuit. Through the kink he goes, full commitment there in 5th gear, using that rev counter as a nice indication of how much speed he's carrying. Sector 2 was quicker compared to Pim van Ark's by about 0.3 seconds actually on that last time by. Is it going to be enough though to get across the line and take that pole position away? Here he comes. He improves with a 151.871. So that's another 0.4 seconds found by him, and but that's not enough to move up the order. 0.4 seconds still to find to secure that pole position, and still a few more seconds as well in order to get onto P2. So he needs to find another half a second if he wants to get on pole position here this afternoon. It's going to be a record broken because Lorenzo Risi and the 44 have secured pole position every round so far in this championship in that Reborn Racing machine. So if Fabian Walter or Pim van Ark can secure that top spot, then that will be something that they can, a small celebration before we go to the race itself. Let's have a quick look down for the order as well. Iceberg Racing still going strong, 152.592 for them. Everyone at the moment, other than Fabian Walter, is now on soft tyres. So the 69 Hansa Racing team still opting for intermediates for some reason. Not too sure why. Let's have a look at their previous laps to see if they are actually even holding on to those lap times. I would have thought that they would be overheating at this point. He hasn't actually been able to set another lap since then, so I think maybe those tyres are beginning to overheat. He's starting to make a fair few mistakes. But yeah, lap 10 to 13, which is his latest one, he hasn't actually been able to put a time on the board. So I reckon those intermediates are starting to blister and cause an issue for him. Oh, Iceberg Racing go off underneath the Continental Bridge before the kink. Using all that camera angle there, just capturing the sheer speed of these cars as they go through that corner. Of course, if you get it wrong there, then it's game over. You are a passenger from that point onwards, and it's going to be tricky for the teams to get that one sorted. As you can see, he just went off the racing line for a split second there, and there was a small amount of spray off the racing line, so it is still a bit tricky out there at the moment for those teams that are trying to use the other lines. But yeah, you can just see the small little markings that are being left as he goes over the small patches of water, but mostly on the racing line it seems to be dry. Iceberg Racing improved 152.334, but still staying in P4 with that time. Oh, and he loses it into turn 1, carrying too much speed there, trying to attack the inside curbing, and just rolls out of the way to make sure that Han's racing car isn't collected. Here comes the current leading LMP2 car, Fabian Walter, as he goes deep into the corner, trying to find that extra tenth or two. I think those intermediates have pretty much just given up on him as he entered that braking zone. Following Pim van Ark in the fair racing machine. Lorenzo Risi still slight improvements there, 151.554 on his last set of soft tyres. So he is closing that gap ever so slightly, only 0.115 seconds now separating the car ahead. So he's within striking distance now for that LMP2 pole position, but can he do it in the next 6 minutes or so? There's plenty of time for him to do so. He can fit another 3 laps in before the checker flag is flown, depending on where he is on circuit. But how will the 41 respond as well? So purple sector 2 from Pim van Ark as he comes up towards the start-finish line. Is it going to be enough to secure that pole position as he comes across? Yes, it is. 150.984. That is a blisteringly fast time. 0.455 seconds quicker than the 69 from Hansa Racing. That's an incredible gap to have to the rest of the competition in the final stages of qualifying as well. That will be a big blow to Hansa Racing and the Reborn Racing team. Now Fabian Walters now coming out on soft tyres, so he could find some extra pace here in the closing stages. If he gets around quickly enough, he will be able to set another 1 or 2 laps. So needs to get his foot down, because it's going to take him around 2 minutes to get to the start-finish line. So I reckon he's got one shot at these softs, and it's going to be the lap of life if he's going to retake that pole position. He's not got to find half a second, which is a really tall order. Lorenzo Risi now coming across the start-finish line as well. No purple sector tyres for him thus far, but will he improve? Yes, it is actually. Wow, the last sector 3 is absolutely blitzed with a 150.787 on the board. That's 1.197 seconds quicker than the 41 car, and I've been saying this, that Lorenzo Risi always finds a way, changing track conditions, and waits for that last few moments before he puts his foot down. It is now raining. It is now raining at Road America. You can see the little slithers of rain hitting the surface of this circuit, and that means that nobody else on those soft tyres will be able to set a lap faster than that. Surely not. Where is Pim van Ark at the moment? He's currently going onto the start-finish straight. He would not have affected his lap if it's not this time by that he's going to improve. Then it is pretty much game over, because there's no way you're going to go faster in these current conditions. And he doesn't improve. He doesn't improve. He stays with a 150.9. and that will be P2 for the 41, because there's no way in hell that those slicks are going to hold on anymore in these conditions. And that means we may now have a wet start to this race, the first we've had this season, in fact. So that's going to be extremely interesting to watch and how the teams manage that. But Lorenzo Ricci still going around the circuit at the moment. He knows now, as soon as that first spit of rain hit that windscreen, that he's done enough to secure pole position. Oh, and he goes sideways going into Canada corner there. Obviously the rear slicks just trying to give up on him. So this has now changed the race completely. Yep, decided to retire to pit lane. And we still have P6 out there, which is the Proto Hawk car. What kind of tyres is he on? He's actually on soft tyres. Is he insane? Death is about to happen here at Road America as he comes down towards turn 5. Probably the heaviest braking zone. It's all downhill as well, so if anything goes wrong in this braking zone, then it's game over. You may as well just close your eyes and take your hands off the steering wheel, because it's all gravity doing the rest of the work as soon as that car loses control. If you're on slicks as well, but he managed it nicely. He's got around the corner. He's still alive. But it doesn't look like it's going to stop raining anytime soon. It's quite a light rain at the moment, but if it gets heavier, we'll have to wait and see. We've still got 5 minutes of warm-up, and that will be vital for the teams now. If you haven't done any wet practice, then or know what the track conditions are, all of the teams here are going to be out on that track testing intermediates and testing wet tyres and everything before the green flag. Because if you are enjoying the live stream before the race, if you thought that this was a great qualifying session, then please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel as well for more of the series. Still got another 4 or 5 rounds remaining. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, we are going to Watkins Glen for a 6-hour endurance race, and that of course means that they go from daytime into nighttime conditions in these cars, which will be great fun at a circuit like Watkins Glen, the full GP circuit of course, and it'll be the first time that we've been there here at CFEG, so a lot of action to unfold in 2 weeks' time. So don't forget that, and don't miss out by giving us a like and subscribe and notify for new news announcements, etc, etc. So hit that notification button. Just 28 seconds left, so qualifying is pretty much done and dusted here. Lorenzo Ricci, of course, still holding on to that pole position, but Hansa Racing doing a brilliant job at securing that third place podium with Fabian Walter in that 69 car. Hugh North is lining up in P4 for the rookie monster team, and then we have the 61 from Iceberg Racing in P5 as well. The 35 Proto Hawk has secured P6 on their debut race with Trevor Holden, so strong performance from him. And then we have David Junt in the 25 car for IDOS in P8. Lining up the last 2 positions then are the Seawolf Netrace Motorsport team with David Junt and Nicholas Podbatnik, and then we have Ricardo Boykman in the 42 in P10 for you. So that's 10 LMP2s lining up on the grid, and we also have 17 GTEs, so a fairly chunky amount of cars in each class. And we're now into overtime, so the Proto Hawk will finish his last remaining lap before coming in. We've also got some other cars as well. We've got the 42 on track. We've got Fabian Walter on track. Oh, he makes a mistake going into Canada corner. That's going to cost him a lot of time. Of course, that lap will now be invalid as a result of that. He won't have gained any time whatsoever. All the other cars are currently sitting in pit lane, and yeah, Lorenzo Ricci is using this time to test rain tyres. He's on the rain compound at the moment, and although he's not going to go faster, he knows this, but clearly using that extra last lap to say, right guys, let's get some data here before we go into the 5-minute warm-up. We already know we've got the fastest lap of the race, or sorry, qualifying rather, and yeah, use the extra time to learn something about these conditions here at Road America. Yeah, that lap was a 1:59, so that's a lot of time to lose in these conditions. Just goes to show what a difference the tyre compound and the track conditions make to these cars. And a 1:59 is only 2 seconds quicker than the GTE cars, who of course set their times on slicks in dry conditions. They're very, very lucky, or unlucky, depending on how you want to look at it, because of course now they are in a position where they don't know what they're going to be doing in terms of tyres. So what exactly is going to be going on? They haven't had the opportunity, unless they've done practice on their own sims at home in single player mode. How is the changing track conditions going to affect things? Okay guys, we are now in the 5-minute warm-up phase. So this is of course one part of the one time where we go over to our break. So don't go anywhere, we will be right back with the 3 hours of Road America, with potentially our first rainy start of the season. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back after these adverts. Apologies there for the repeat of the intro. That's a little mistake on my part, but welcome back to the live stream. We are at Road America for round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge, and as you can see, it is pouring it down with rain on start-finish line here, so the teams are going to have a fairly difficult time in deciding what they're going to do in terms of their tactics. Is it going to rain for the whole race? Is it going to rain for 10 minutes? Nobody really knows. And as the warm-up session was underway, all of the teams were out on circuit testing intermediates, testing rain tyres, even testing some softs as well to see if they could handle these conditions. But it does look a lot more serious out there now as the rain has continued to come down onto the circuit. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams going on to rain tyres. In fact, all of the grid has gone for rain tyres. The only person that hasn't is the 61 car, which is on intermediate. So brave stuff there from the 61. But going through the order, we have 27 cars lined up on the grid for you. The pole positioning car, the 44 with Lorenzo Arisi. Look how much rain is hitting the front of that windscreen. That just gives you an idea of how much visibility they're going to have, and especially once they all get up to speed, the spray from these cars is going to be immense. So let's go through the standing order for you in both LMP2 and GTE classes, and we can see who is where. So leading the way, as already mentioned, is Lorenzo Arisi in the 44 car for Reborn Racers. Pretty normal sight there for that team. And then in second place is Pim van Ark in the 41 Fair Racing car. In third, securing the last podium position and on the second row, is Hansa Racing in their 69 machine with Fabian Walter. And then lining up alongside in P4 is Hugh North in the 83 Rookie Monster car. On the third row we have the 61 Iceberg Racing team and the 33 of Tony Jansen. And in 7th and 8th on the 4th row we have the 35 with Trevor Holden in the Proto Hawk LMP2 and Eidos Motorsport 25 with David Junt. In the 14 car it is Seawolf Netrace Motorsport, and the last of the LMP2s is the 42 Hansa Racing team with Ricardo Boykman. Then in GTE we have Charlie Rigo in the 97 On-Off Racing car, and following close behind is Chris Severt in the 37 Chiba Hawk Racing team. In the second row is Gregor Spilat in the 88 Secura team, leading the championship of course by quite a substantial margin. And then alongside for the start is Turk Akinen in the Rapid Racing 13 car. First showing for the season is the number 5 car, and funny enough they've got themselves into P5. That's the RFRO Porsche team. And then we have Arcadia Satriba in the 39 Chiba Hawk Racing car alongside in P6 for the start. In P7 we've got the number 40 with Lucas Lynchen in the Mad Eagle car, and then joining them is Alicia Filito in Team RSI in P8. In P9 we have Daniel Ersling for the F1 Bro Racing team, and then we have Kieran Sharp in the Eidos Motorsport Porsche, the number 23. Mantis Rikas in the 82 Rookie Monster C7 lining up in P11, and then we have their first debut as well for the number 10 Suicide Squad from Balkan car lining up in P12. Then it's the 32 Autonaut C7, another C7 joining us for the season. It's good to see a good mixture of cars. And following them is the 81 of Simon Marshall in their Porsche Rookie Monster team car as well. Then we have Flat Out Racing with Bartek Masiek, followed by Claudio Barrera in the MRT Race F1 car in the 77. And then lining up the last of the cars is Nitrous Oxide Racing in their 79 machine, and that is the current standing for you for all of the cars in both classes. And right now the safety car is going through Canada Corner. Look at the amount of rain here at Road America. This is going to be a fairly interesting start. Just one last corner to go before we go racing for 3 hours of Road America, round 7 of the WSCC. Lorenzo Arisi will control the start as he gets to the start-finishing line. Even the safety car is struggling as it comes around the last corner. Bit of a moment there. For a safety car, it wasn't that safe, so the very interesting thing to see. But Lorenzo Risi will start the race very shortly as he comes out towards the start-finish line. We are go, and he gets off to a fairly okay start. Actually, in fact, Hansa Racing are getting a nice leapfrog on both of the cars as they come down towards turn 1. They are too wide into the braking zones. The 41 goes deep into the corner. He's going to struggle on these new tyres in these rainy conditions. Look at all the cars going left wide, but no contact made between any of the cars. They all get through safely. It is still Lorenzo Risi leading the way. Trevor Holden, in fact, going down the order. He's the first of the casualties here this evening, or afternoon rather. Charlie Rigo in the GTE class getting away from the 37, and the 13 of Turkka Hakkinen has gone up the order and gone into third place. That demotes the 88 of Secura Racing down into P4 as they go down into turn 2 braking zone. So good start there. We've also got Pim van Ark has made a mistake or been involved in an incident of some sort. There's no damage to that car, but he seems to be struggling in these rainy conditions. Everyone here is on rain tyres at the moment, so everyone is on rain tyres. It seems to be the same strategy from everyone, and I think if you went for intermediates, you wouldn't be alive right now. But the only casualty so far is the 35 of Trevor Holden. He's all the way down in P24, and that means he's going to have to battle his way through this traffic, and we've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. So casualties are continuing to mount in these rainy conditions. I think it's going to take the teams a bit of time to just get used to where the grip is. And in fact, the 33 taps the 41. The two teammate cars make contact going through that fast right-hand corner, and that's going to cost them loads of time. That's not how teamwork is done, and that was through the carousel. Everyone gets through the kink for the first time without dying. That's good to see. And here come the GTEs as well with Chris Savette. Oh, and he's gone wide. He's gone off the racing line. In fact, he took the lead for a split second there on the run down to that corner. And this means that he's going to be in a bad position because here comes Gregos Bielat, who's made his way back past the 13 car and up into P2 now. So a lot of changes going on here at this early stage of the race. And look at the spray coming off the cars ahead. You can barely see what is going on. And it looks like further issues there for the 37 as he's struggling to get that car turned in to turns 13 and 14. Of course, everyone doesn't like to be in rainy conditions, but for us here in the commentary box and watching, it makes one hell of a race. Here comes Turkka Hakkinen. He's got the slipstream going on the run down to turn 1. He's going to have the advantage because he has the slipstream from the 88 ahead of him. They will not clear them though, as they're still too wide, and in fact, clever thinking there from the Chiba Hawkeye. Just thinks, I'm going to brake just slightly early here, and he's still going to run wide as he takes that inside line. Here comes Team RSI as well. They smell blood in the water as they're going to go down the inside into turn 2. Thinks better of it though. Of course, Alicio Filito thinking of the long game there, so he could have made the move down onto the inside line, but of course in these conditions better just to play it safe and stay out of trouble. Pim van Ark though still moving up the order. Where is he? He's currently in P6 behind the Hansa Racing car of Ricardo Beukman. Now Ricardo Beukman started in P10, or so he was at the bottom of the qualifying, and he goes wide down into the exit of turns 7 there. A lot of cars are struggling here. It's going to be a pretty hectic race if it continues like this. Oh, and the Iceberg Racing cars lost it. That is Igor off the track limits there, and he's going down the order as a result. Gets to rejoin pretty quickly and safely. Of course, there's a fairly large gap towards the GTEs already. And he's gone all the way down into P9 now. Trevor Holden still fighting his way through the traffic here. He's coming out across the GTE leaders, so he's going to have to be careful about how he navigates his way through this lot. He's coming up behind Turkka Hakkinen. Through the kink they go, and he will have the overspeed, of course, in that LMP2 machine to get the job done fairly easily. But here he comes up towards the Secura Racing team car. Looks down the inside, just thinks better of it. Lorenzo Risi setting the fastest lap of the race so far with a 2:05.4. And that means he's got a lead of around 4 seconds at the moment. So Reborn Racers using that data that they obtained in qualifying as the rain was starting to hit the surface of the circuit and driving away into the distance there. Looks like Secura Racing have got an issue. They're trying to get the power down as much as they can without losing control of that BMW, and it looks like they're slowly catching up to the 97 as Trevor Holden now regains that position, P10 officially, in the overall standings, and it's going to be a long road ahead in order to get back into competition with the LMP2s. Let's go to our leader in class though, or sorry, leader in class yet in the LMP2s, Lorenzo Arisi, setting the fastest lap as just mentioned. And he's got a fairly comfortable gap to the rest of the cars, the next of which is David Junt, Idus Motorsport, really showing us how to race in these conditions. Of course, David is no stranger to endurance racing, and we could see possibly their best result here this afternoon if he can continue in these conditions. And as I say that, he struggles to get it turned in on the entry to turn 8 there, that tight left-hand corner. And of course, it's all downhill braking here at Road America, so it can be fairly scary stuff, especially if you've got no grip on those tyres. Close behind is Fabian Walter as well. He's got him within viewing distance, but far away from striking at this stage. Another 3 or 4 seconds of drift. Oh, and he's going very sideways through the kink. Jesus Christ, that was impressive stuff there to get that held onto. And the rain is still continuing. It doesn't look as heavy as what it was earlier. And he goes deep into Canada corner, and that's going to allow Pim van Ark in that 41 machine to come into the battle as well. He's just overtaken the 14 car of Seawolf Netrace Motorsport and moving up into the podium position. So Hansa Racing have got a battle on their hands if they can't keep it together. Charlie Rigo has made some form of mistake as he goes down the order as well. Gregor Bulat getting used to these wet conditions now and into first place in class. Charlie Rigo in second, and close behind is Turka Hakkinen. Something's happened to Chris Evert because his last lap time was a 2:28 on our boards at the moment, so he's all the way down into P7, so a mistake has occurred for that team at some point, but we don't know what. Maybe you can come into the commentary box and enlighten us. Small gap now emerging between the leading GTE car, and there's already a car in the pits. I think that's the Autonaut, their first debut performance it is, so that is them in the pit lane. And Gregor Bulat's gone wide into turn 1. That's going to cost him a bit of time, and here comes the 13 as well, because here comes Turka Hakkinen trying to go on the offensive in GTE for P2 in class. He's got that inside line, and there's enough space given between all involved. As he comes driving down, he's got into P2. He will have the extra power to get down into turn 1, but the 97 holds the inside line down into the braking zone at turn 5. It's going to be brave stuff here. Who's going to be able to take advantage? And the 97 is defending. The 13 goes off the brakes once more, and he's going to go off the track limits. Just barely. Stays within track limits, in fact. Just 2 wheels off that grey curbing, which is never a good thing to do. And round the outside of turn 6. That's a really tricky overtaking place to do the job, because there's very little grip there in the best conditions, never mind when there's rain everywhere. And that is good stuff. Of course, in these current conditions, when there's so much rain on the circuit, which of course there currently is, sometimes it's better to take the other line, so take the opposite line to the racing one, because obviously where all the rubber has been set down in the qualifying session, there's not really much grip available in those conditions. Of course, rubber and rain makes a very slippery surface when you compare that to clear tarmac, so sometimes it's great to just go off the racing line and use an alternative braking zone. And that's exactly what the 13 did. He found that extra grip around the outside line where there's very little rubber down onto the circuit, and that's what gave him that extra edge in that overtaking manoeuvre. So it is 1-2 BMWs in the front positions, and the 97 in fact going deep down here into Canada corner once more. And Team RSI with Alicio Filito are really showing a strong performance in the rainy conditions as well. Now we still have David Junt going around in the 25, but we missed an overtake between Pim van Ark and the Hansa Racing team. The 69 just must have happened in the last run down to turn 1, because we've just got them close behind as well. Oh, and the 69 goes round. That is a stationary LMP2 on the exit of turn 6. Luckily, no gaps in between, or no positions lost there for the team. And in fact, who's that around? I think that might be Flat Out Racing. And that is Bartek Masiak has had a massive collision into the barrier. There's no rear wing on that BMW whatsoever. And these guys are sitting in a very strong position in the championship standings. In fact, they are currently in P6 with 83 points. And we've actually got the Mad Hawk e-racing car in the 87 and the 82. All within striking distance if they do not get a strong finish here this afternoon. So bad news for the team. They're going to have to come back into pit lane and get essential repairs done in that car. And in fact, it's even now struggling to get grip down onto the grey stuff. Goes into the gravel, and it's going to be pretty hard to get that out of there without causing much of an incident. Luckily, there's not much traffic going around that part of the circuit at this moment in time. All of the GTEs are currently fairly largely spread out, and we've actually got Lorenzo Arisi coming down into turn 1, and there's a fairly large gap before he even reaches the first of the GTEs. Of course, Road America, a very long circuit here, and it's going to be very interesting, should I say. I'm going to use that word, interesting, when these LMP2 cars come up and pay a visit to the back of the GTE pack. Of course, the 76 now going very slowly off the racing line. He's just got through the kink, staying on the grass. Obviously doesn't want to get involved or be in the way of anyone else. Oh, got to be very careful in these current conditions. Anything can really happen. Onto the grass he goes, knows that all the traffic is coming through. And takes out all the WeatherTech signs and pushes them all onto the race. I've never seen that in my... Oh, God. I've not seen that before. That is hilarious. Just, oh, you know what? We're not winning here, guys. We need to think of another tactic. I know, let's create obstacles and push all of the WeatherTech signs onto the racing line. Oh, that was fantastic. Oh, man. I know that it was with good intentions. That was with good intentions, but, you know, that was... Jesus Christ, I've got to bring it back together now. Whew. Right, so he's going back into the pit lane now, so that's fine. I've got to watch something else before I burst out laughing again. But Lorenzo Arisi still in first place in class. David Junt coming out into Canada Corner at the moment. And where is the 41 of Pim Van Ark? He's got a fairly large gap, actually, before you see the P3 car. Definitely the rain causing a few issues for some of the teams here. And there we see the 77 MRT racing car that is with Claudio Barrera in charge of that vehicle, and he's going into the pit lane, so maybe some issues for the car. They are currently sitting in P13 at the moment, so a bit strange why they're deciding to come into pit lane at the moment. We'll keep an eye on that as best we can. They are on the rain compound at the moment, so whether or not they're going to change to intermediates. It has slightly lightened in terms of rain. It depends what part of the circuit you're looking at and the camera angle. I reckon it's staying pretty consistent on second thought. But now Lorenzo Risi with a 10-second lead over David Junt in that Eidos Motorsport car. And we actually have Trevor Holden catching up to some of the teams in the LMP2 field. Yeah, the 83 of Hugh North is in the pit lane. Oh, there's been a massive collision for the Rookie Monster LMP2. That is a lot of damage to the rear end. There's no rear wing on that car either, so there's a lot of issues arising here in these dreadful conditions. Of course, rain is fun. Rain is fun, guys. Got to take it easy if you're going to make it to the end of this one. And this is, if nobody can survive this, it's going to really spice up the championship standings. In GTE, though, we have Dragos Bielak catching up to the Nitrous Oxide Racing team. Obviously, they're struggling in these conditions in that Porsche, but he's now got a quite large gap over P2. Turka Hakkinen has gone back down the order as well. He is in P5 at the moment, behind the 39 Chiba Racing car. So the mid-pack in GTE is pretty close at the moment. So it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 GTE cars fighting for this position, the top of which will be P4 in class. So the 88, the 97 and the number 2 for Team RSI are all up the road by a significant margin. going into turn 5 braking zone at the moment. So it's a fairly large gap between all of these. And then we have Bartek, no, it's actually the nitrous oxide racing car separating those front running teams. He comes down into the braking zone of turn 5. Turkka Häkkinen looking to try and get an overtake done, which he does not. I think it was going to be a bit ambitious if he tried, but just letting him know that he's there and he is the quicker car at this stage. So trying to say, look buddy, you've got to go quicker. There's a lot of cars behind us right now and we need to get this job done. So looking to pass as quickly as possible. Won't be able to do it in the next corners, or pretty much this section of the circuit is very risky to try and make an overtake. But will he do it down into the braking zone of turn 8? No, he won't. The 39 will defend on the inside line, ensuring that the 13 doesn't get a window of opportunity before they get into the carousel. Staying off that rubbered line there, the 13 using a different line compared to the 39. Oh, that rear end looks a bit twitchy. Snatches it back and gets it back under control before getting into the kink. Go on board to see what the spray is like from the cars ahead. It's not an it's not ridiculous amount of spray. You can still see pretty clearly. So I'd say the conditions are fairly good considering. And I thought for a second there the 13 had outbraked himself and was going to make contact with the 39, but gets it slowed down pretty well into the braking zone of turn 12 there. Looks like the 13 has a lot more grip in the mid-corners, but just can't get the power down early enough to take advantage of the slipstream on the run down to the next set of corners. That's what's costing them all this time. And going back down as well, we'll look on our live time and see if there's any further battles happening. There is one in LMP2 at the moment between Hansa Racing and the 33 of Tony Jensen, including the Proto Hawk as well. They're on a good recovery drive. But yeah, we've got Hugh North currently still undergoing repairs in the pit lane. Is he back out on track now? He's currently in P19 overall. Yeah, he's back out on circuit limits. We've got the 24 coming in. That's nitrous oxide racing. So whether or not they've made contact with something, not too sure. Doesn't seem to be much damage to that Porsche. But let's go back to this battle between Turkka Häkkinen and the Chequered Hawk car. Looking down the inside there, underneath that Corvette bridge. Not ideal to try and overtake there, but obviously just trying to apply a bit of pressure to the 39 at this stage. Only 20 minutes into this race. So far, I think, touch wood, there hasn't been as much chaos as I was expecting, but certainly some teams have been caught out by these changing conditions for sure. Have a look at our leader just quickly. He's coming up behind the leading GTEs. This is going to be the first time they meet. Let's just have a quick look to see what kind of braking performance we're looking at here for these LMP2s. Very early on the brakes there, and that just shows how much grip or lack of grip these LMP2s have. If they're braking that early in these conditions, then that just shows how difficult and tricky it is out there at the moment. Going to look down the inside of the 39, which he does, slips up the inside line and gets the overtake done before the main straight. 13 is still close behind the 39, looking to overtake on the slipstream. Can he get the run down? I think he's too far back this time by the spray coming off the back of those GTE cars, but still tucking himself behind that deadly spray or wave of water. 13 seems to be a bit better through the apex of most of these corners as he gets a nice approach down into the next corner, but not close enough. Not just yet anyway for Turkka Häkkinen. He's got to wait for that opportunity to present itself, and pretty much he can probably think of the long game here and stay behind Just thought there was another battle going on between Christopher, but it is the IDOS Motorsport LMP2. David Junt doing a brilliant job here of keeping that machine in second place. Pim van Ark is still in P3. Last lap was a 206.5 for him, but he's 20 or so seconds adrift of that P2 car, so he's got a lot of work to do along with his teammate if he's going to secure that second place. All good news, of course, for the 44 as the 37 goes deep into turns 6, just manages to hold on to the rear end of that Porsche 911 RSR and carry on. They're currently sitting now in P6, so Christopher doing a good job at keeping that car in competition. Of course, they had an early mistake, and he's actually just giving him the commentator's curse as he goes deep into the braking zone of turn 8 before the carousel. Not the way you want to do a lap-by-lap pace. We have Lucas Lynchen under attack by Kieran Sharp in that IDOS Motorsport Porsche as well. There's a lot of Porsches here this afternoon. It's like Porsche and then with a sprinkle of BMW and Corvette. Unfortunately, the 32 is not doing so well. And where is the rookie Monster 82, Mantis Rikas, in P11? So that's your Corvette C7 grid for you in P11 and in P14 as well. So we've got a three-way battle here between all of these guys, and we've actually missed. We come off this battle for a split second, and look what happens. The 13 goes by the 39, and he's going to have a bit of a hairy moment there. It might come back at them with the 39. Here comes the 37 as well. So Rapid Racing under attack by both the Cheaper Hall Racing cars. He's not got the speed to defend that position. The 39 rather will retake that P4 away from the 13 car and gets enough clearance to get into the lead before the braking zone of turn 1. Of course, all of this battling that they're doing is bringing Christopher back into the picture as he goes really wide into turn 1. That is a really ambitious driving line there from that car. He's got to be careful of track limits though, of course. Needs to have at least 2 wheels within the track limits at all times. Of course, if he keeps using that to gain time, that runoff area on that left hand side of the exit turn 1, he may find himself under investigation. Okay, this is going to get very interesting very quickly. We're going to have to keep an eye on both the battles as much as we can for you, but of course the higher position will take priority, so we'll keep an eye on the 13 car for the time being, keeping an eye on live timing, see if there's anything else unfolding further up the order. We've got a battle in LMP2, that's a three-way battle as well between Iceberg Racing, Hansa Racing and the 14 Seawolf Netrace Motorsport car as well. So this is a good battle between all of these guys, and it's actually for P4 as well, so exactly the same position up for grabs in both classes at this stage of the race. And in fact, they're actually going to meet one another in the next 1 or 2 laps if they all keep it clean, because the GTE cars are just going through the carousel down towards the kink. And last time we looked at those LMP2s, they were just coming up into Sector 2, and that'll be probably about 10 to 20 seconds adrift. Oh, and the 76 goes round again. That is a big collision into the barrier there. You just saw the rear of the car just not grip the way that he wanted to. A bit too much turning input perhaps, and that has caused a massive 180 spin and back into the barrier again. And in fact, they've actually just decided to retire the car and call it a day. A lot of damage has already been suffered on their earlier incident. Of course, they already lost a rear wing and a lot of damage, but the 14 car has gone ahead of Iceberg Racing in that split second what we've been watching, and we still have the battle here between all these GTEs. So the 14 has gone up into P5 in LMP2. They've got a bit of work to do to catch up again to the 69 from Hansa Racing, and we could be about to go too wide here into braking zone turn 1. Is he close enough? No, but the 37 takes a little peep, not up alongside as of yet, but that means that the 13 is not going to get the best of lines coming out of the exit of turn 1. That's exactly what he wants. He's trying to set himself up in this game of chess at around 100 miles an hour. The 39 gets collected. Oh, and there's a collision between, that's the 41. That's the 41 car, and that's our 3rd place LMP2. Pim van Ark just losing control of that car. And there's a bit of debris in the middle of the circuit there. Not too sure which car that's from. It might be the 41. It was black in colour and it had a bit of white writing on it, so it may have been from that LMP2, but can't confirm at this stage. And Turkka Hakkinen has DNF'd as well, so the 13 has retired to the pit lane. He's decided to call it a day. Didn't think the damage would have been that severe, if I'm truly honest. That would have been a good race to continue unfolding, but Turkka Hakkinen and the Rapid Racing team have decided to go in. And Grzegorz Biela, yes, sorry, I've been completely engrossed by this battle. Grzegorz Biela has crashed that 88 Secura machine. There's no rear wing on that car, and they've gone way down the order now. They're currently sitting in P8 in class, and he's got to go extremely slowly to get back to pit lane. That's going to be a long repair job for that car. That means that Charlie Rigo in the 97 is currently leading the way, and Alicia Filito is in second place. Christopher now back into P3 with Lucas Lynchen in P4. This race is getting extremely hairy very quickly. We're only not even half an hour into this 3-hour race, and it doesn't look like the rain is going to give up or persist. So it's just going to be relentless rain for the foreseeable future. There's no signs of it slowing down whatsoever. Lorenzo Risi still doing a great job at holding that 10-second gap, but Idos Motorsport equally doing a great job at keeping them within striking distance. Only 10 seconds between the two top leading LMP2 cars in these conditions. Pim van Ark, though, obviously struggling now, 30 seconds adrift of David Junt in that second place LMP2 car, and that means that Fabian Walter is going to take that position, in fact, as the 41 comes into the pit lane for repairs. So Fabian Walter and Hansa Racing go up the order into third place in LMP2. Yeah, Trevor Holden as well suffering some for more issues as he's gone back down into 11th place overall. Hugh North is still going in the Rookie Monster LMP2. They're currently all the way down in P17, P10 in class, and they're going to play the long game and probably just get the points on the board. Where is Grzegorz Biela, though? He's still going around the circuit, coming down into Canada Corner. No cars in sight, luckily for him, as he trundles his way back into the pit lane. He's currently going down the order again, P8 still. And we've got a battle for P3 in LMP2 as well. Of course, Fabian Walter under attack from Iceberg Racing. Obviously at home in these conditions, given the name of the team. Clearly a lot stronger in a rainy environment in that 61 machine, because he's doing a pretty good job in P4 at the moment. Last lap was a 2:13, which is on pace with the 69 car ahead. And in fact, the leading cars are all on 2:09s. Last lap was a 2:07 for Lorenzo Arisi. It's still 2 seconds slower than his personal best, but of course, as the rain has become heavier, it's getting trickier and trickier to get those lap times and keep them down. So if I was in the 44 shoes right now, you'd just be thinking about how you can survive this race. It's pretty clear that the rest of the competition is struggling, as they are, but it's just about making sure that you spend as little time in the pit lane. That's how you win these races, staying out of trouble and reducing your time stationary for those repairs. Quite a few of the cars in pit lane at the moment. We've got 4 cars in pit lane, 2 of which have retired. Grzegorz Biela obviously getting essential repairs, as is the 87 from Daniel Ersling as well for the F1 Bros Racing team. It's got a good battle unfolding here. GTE traffic ahead, going down into the braking zone of turn 2. That's going to spice things up fairly nicely for these guys and bring the battle even closer for them. Into the driving view for the 61 as they come down the track, and the spray has actually intensified from the last time we went in here just a bit, as those wiper blades are rotating ferociously and fiercely to clear as much of the water from that windscreen as possible. You can barely see the apex of the corner there on that left-hand side. Look at that. There's so much spray, and obviously the wiper doesn't reach all the way down to the left-hand side, so the apex is actually blind for some of these corners in these conditions. So that's really tricky stuff to handle and navigate around. And you've only got another 2.5 hours to go, lads. Well done. Goes down the inside of the Corvette rookie monster car. That's the 82. Mantis Rica's still doing a good job there, now into P8. Of course, Gregor Spilat all the way down into P12 now. All the other teams taking advantage. Very sideways moment there for the 61. Coming through the kink. That was 100% sideways lock in that car. And it looks like he's going to outbrake himself here, maybe, potentially. No. Nice manoeuvre there. Nicely under control, getting down the inside of Alessio Filito in that Team 2, or Team RSI number 2 car. Speaking of which, let's have a look at the gap between Charlie Rigo and Alessio Filito. It is around 3 to 4 seconds as they come across the timing line. Here comes the 87 re-entering the track limits. They've lost a few positions going down the order into P15 in class, so they're going to have a bit of work to do to make their way back up the order. These conditions are really causing havoc to a lot of the teams. And blue flags out there for the 97 as the Iceberg Racing car gets by. We've got Lucas Lynch in as well, going back down the order to the GTEs. We have about for P4, and this is a four-way fight now. We have Lucas Lynch in the 40, we've got 23 with Kieran Sharp for the Idis Motorsport team. We've got the number 5 RFRO Porsche, their debut performance, and then we have the 39. This is a four-car wide Porsche civil war going on in front of us here, and Lucas Lynch is leading the way for this pack for this class. So into the braking zone for turn 5. 1, 2, 3 cars, all within striking distance, I'd say at least 0.2 to 3 seconds adrift of one another's rear bumpers, and then there's a smaller but wider gap between themselves and the 39 with Arcadia Satriba. Last lap times for all the teams for you were 2:24s. Okay, so all the teams are setting pretty much identical lap times, with the fastest being Arcadia Satriba with a 2:23, so slightly better pace there in that 39 machine, but at the back of this pack. So how is he going to navigate his way, provided of course that pace is relevant to what we're seeing on our data? How is he going to get through the rest of these cars? Twitchy moment there for the number 5 going through the kink. A lot less. Oh, there's a 77. The 77 is turned around. That's Claudio Barrera, I think it was. Yes, it is. He is stationary on the exit of the kink, and that is going to be a very tricky position. Oh, he's going to trying to make the move for the turnaround. Looking on live timing, he's got a lot of time to do it. Luckily. Oh, and the turning circle on that BMW isn't that great, unfortunately. Gets it turned around and back underway. Who's the next car going to be coming through the corner? That is Lorenzo Arisi trying to come through the kink now. He's seen the stationary car and he's moved over off the racing line. Thank God for that. That could have been a very scary moment there for our race leader in that 44 machine, but luckily no incident caused. And we've got a caution now for the 79 car for dangerous re-entries and manoeuvres. So he's on his warning for that time by. Let's go back to our battle with Lucas Lynch and Kieran Sharp and the rest of the guys though. And Kieran Sharp goes down the inside line. He's going to have to go defensive to defend that position from the number 5 who's going around the outside line, and that means he's going to get demoted in that position. Great move there from that number 5 machine, and gets the job done. I'll speak English now. Gets the job done. Moving up into P5 in class. Kieran Sharp's going to try around the outside, but carries too much speed as a result of that, and now it's going to be between him and the 39. Now Arcadia Satriba was fighting of course with the 13 before they had to avoid that stationary 41 car on the exit of turn 2. So we know that he's got the pace to be up in the top 5 of this race. It's just a question of how is he going to get past that 23, because Kieran Sharp doing a really good job here this afternoon at Road America for the Ardus Motorsport team, and it's not going to be that easy to take that position in these conditions. Ooh, Rookie Monster car goes down the inside before the kink. Bit of a scary moment there. It's never nice having a car to go down the inside of that line. One of the fastest corners, or is the fastest corner on circuit. What do you guys think of this race so far then? Rain from since the start of this race, which was 35 minutes ago, and we've seen a lot of overtaking done and very scary moments take place. Give us a like and subscribe if you are loving this stuff, because we certainly are up here in the commentary box, i.e. myself. And 77, what is the 77 doing? He's decided to go into pit lane. I'm not too sure what is going on there. He must have some really bad damage if he's steering like that. And we've actually got the 42 in pit lane as well, undergoing repairs for these teams. Okay, so Lucas Lynchen under attack by the number 5 car from RFRO Racing. Not close enough just yet to get that overtaking move done. And we may have another battle between Hansa Racing and Iceberg coming up shortly as well. Have to keep an eye on that one as best as we can. As I come across the start finishing line there. Back to Lucas Lynchen though, because this is the closest battle at the moment for P4 in GTE. And it has actually stopped raining at this end of the circuit. There's a small bit of drizzle, but mostly it has stopped. It's now going to be a drying racing line. And at the Canada corner, which is the one we're viewing now, it's still raining. So some parts of the circuit is dry or drying because it has stopped raining. As number 5 goes deep into Canada corner braking zone, trying to get the overtake done, but just carries too much speed. Reset button pressed, and they're back into position 5 where they started off. But yeah, some of the corners here, there is no rain whatsoever. But on others, it is still raining. Like on the main straight at the moment, we clearly raining on the main straight. So of course, it's going to be fairly tricky if it is starting to go half on and half off in terms of rain. Doesn't look like it's raining in turn 1. No, it's not raining in turn 1, guys. The rain has now gone down the main straight towards the back end of the circuit in the last few sectors and corners, and in sector 2 as well. Turn 1 and 2 has now officially no rain now hitting the surface of the circuit, so it will now start to dry, and we could potentially have a pit stop strategy unfolding in front of us here. LMP2s are due to pit any minute now, with Lorenzo Risi still leading the way in that number 44 machine, so they're going to have to decide if they can actually afford to go onto another set of wets, or try and maybe go onto the intermediate tyres and see what happens from there. So this moment in time, it's really bad timing for the rain to actually stop for the LMP2 cars, but for GTEs, they've got around 20 minutes to decide whether or not they can actually go onto softs or not, provided of course it does not restart again, the rain that is. Yeah, this section as well is drying. No more rain here in the carousel at turns 8 and 9. And going through the kink, no more rain at the kink now. So the rain has actually stopped. The last time we saw rain was obviously on the main straight. So as the cars go by, the number 5 gets through into P4 as they go onto the exit of the kink there. Good racing there between the 40 and the number 5 as he comes down into the braking zone of turn 12. The Hansa Racing car's gone deep into the gravel trap, and it's going to have to rejoin very carefully. Oh, careful, the Idus Motorsport GTE. Jesus. Whew. That was a close one there between those two cars. The Idus Motorsport teams, both the LMP2 and GTE, right alongside one another and allowing each other plenty of room for good reason. And the number 40 has gone back through on the exit of turns 12, which was Canada corner, got up the inside and into P4 once more. And there's no rain on the main straight either, so that is now officially no more rain on the circuit anywhere in any sector. Now it's going to be a waiting game for that racing line to dry out and allow for medium and soft tyres to become usable. But who's going to be able to make that jump first? Who's going to be the one that makes that initial decision? 20 minutes remaining before the GTEs have to pit for fuel, and LMP2s, unfortunately, their time is almost up and they'll have to come in within the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. 39 going down the inside of Kieran Sharp there into that braking zone, gets the job done. Nice move there for that position. That's P5, or sorry, P6 even, for that 39 Chequered racing car. And Kieran Sharp in that Idus Motorsport machine now was in P5, now down into P7 over this battle between these four Porsches. This is good racing between all of these guys. Nice amount of room given between all involved, and touch wood, there'll be no accidents, and we can just have, or continue to have, good racing here as the number 41 is on a recovery drive. Pim van Aert, we haven't talked about the LMP2s for quite some time because all of these guys have been fighting pretty much from start to finish. The 41 is now in P6 in class, which is not ideal for their championship hopes. Now this team is in second place with 186 points on the board in the LMP2 field. Now just to give you an idea of what that means to them, the 44, who's currently leading the race with Lorenzo Risi, is in first place on the leaderboards with 188, just 2 points separating these two LMP2 teams. And of course it's due to the rain that has caught the 41 out. They've had a few spins, including a few bits of damage where they've been collected, and now they have to perform like never before. I mean, they had a bit of issue at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago in the 6-hour race, but they pretty much scored points evenly with the 44 coming in second place. But if they're not going to finish in the top 10 here this afternoon, the rest of the championship is going to be pretty tricky for them to master. And who's that? That is one of the Hansa Racing cars there, who is stationary on exit. That can't be the 469. I think it might be the 41. Yes, it is. So that's the 42 of Ricardo Beutmann. That's their sister car. They're not having a good evening. They're currently sitting in P10 in class and P13, so they're actually mid-pack with some of the GTE cars, in fact. But still going, having a few teething issues, clearly, as the track changes. And Lorenzo Risi, our race leader, is extending his lead over the Idus Motorsport machine. So David Junt in that 25 car going down to around 10 seconds. What is from what we saw earlier has now extended all the way up to around 16 seconds. So clearly not able to keep pace for some time. And we've also had Fabian Walter, who I believe has come into the pit lane early. Let's have a look at his last time. Yes, so lap 19 of this race, they've decided to come into the pit lane. So he's gone down all the way to P7 now as a result, but we're expecting him to retake that podium position in due course. Here comes Lorenzo Risi, our race leader, into pit lane. Now we've got to be careful about what we say here, because whether or not there's still a lot of standing water here on this circuit. So the question is Are they going to be able to take intermediates? Are they going to be able to take softs? Currently, everyone is still on the rain compound here at Road America. So it's going to be very interesting to see who is going to be the first one to come off and go off the norm and decide to go with something else. And how quickly are they going to be going once they re-enter those track limits. 97 with Charlie Rigo still leading the way for On-Off Racing, with Alicio Falito behind. Last lap time for the Porsche in front of us is a 2:18.4. That's an entire second quicker than the Team RSI car is putting down at the moment. And in fact, they are the quickest car in class at the moment. To navigate their way through some backmarker GT traffic. That was the 77. They've made their driver change already, with Victor Aurelia now in charge of the MRT Race F1 BMW. Okay, the 61 going up into P2 now as David Junt in that Idus Motorsport machine. Don't believe they came into the pit lane. Let's have a look. No, they didn't. Their last lap, lap 21, was a 2:22. So something's gone wrong there for the Idus Motorsport team. Whether or not they were coming down pit lane, I don't know. We'll have to wait until they go by. Let's have a quick look. Yes, they have. So they have come into the pit lane for more fuel. Everyone's staying on the rain tyre at the moment. In fact, intermediate tyres for the 33 with Tony Jansen. So the first of the cars to go over to intermediates is the 33 sister car. Maybe using it as a bit of a testing ground, perhaps, as he goes deep into the carousel, the gravel trap awaiting him. And here comes the Idus Motorsport machine. Careful how you conduct your re-entry there. Blue flag's out. Oh, what's going on here? What is the 33 doing? Oh, and he's actually lost complete traction on that car. Those intermediate tyres are not ready for use whatsoever. Even going in a straight line through that small left-hand kink. Usually a corner that is flat out for these cars, and that's an immediate 180 into the barrier. That is very dangerous stuff there, and he's lost the rear wing of that LMP2 car, so that's going to be a slow journey back to pit lane. Luckily, it's on the Sector 3 part of the lap, and he won't have too much time to spend off circuit. We're entering pit lane now, so yeah, intermediate tyres, not just yet, guys. Stay on those reins. There's a lot of standing water on the surface of Road America at the moment, clearly. Still leading the way then for the 44 Reborn Racing team. 17 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack at the moment for his class. David Junt still holding on to that P2 position as the 61 re-enters the pit lane for their scheduled pit stop. And Ricardo Beukman in that 44 Hansa Racing team has retired. So that's now 3 cars retired out of this pack of 27. So slowly but surely they are getting whittled down in number. Casualties are rising. Everyone's still on the rain compound after that first round of pit stops in the LMP2 field. Of course, the 33 learning the hard way that they are not ready for use. Tony Jansen still in the pit lane at the moment. Of course, he's going down the order. Now in P8. And we've got Trevor Holden and Ricardo Beukman, of course, going down as well. Trevor Holden in that 35 machine is still running, but he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to climb back up into competition again. And David Junt sets the new fastest lap of this race in these drying conditions on the rain tyres as well, 2:02.864. That's actually 3 seconds quicker than Lorenzo Risi's best lap time. So David Junt definitely on that new set of rubber, putting down the pace. Now, how will Lorenzo Risi respond? He's got to find an extra 2 or 3 seconds. And of course, is that just a fluke? Is that a one-off lap time? Or is that going to be a consistent pace there from that IDOS machine? If so, then the 44 is going to be in a lot of trouble. To navigate his way around some of the GTE traffic, of which is still fighting for position as well. We have Arkadiusz Treba under attack from Lucas Lynch and Kieran Sharp, so this battle that we had ongoing earlier is still well and truly underway, because Kieran Sharp is now sitting in P7 at the moment, number 40 and the 39 ahead, and the number 5 as well, so still within striking distance of one another at this stage of the race, and approaching the end of the first hour here for round 7 of the series. Last lap time for Lorenzo Risi, 2:09.034, and that was with GTE traffic. Now, where is David Junt? Because he's just coming up the main straight now. He too has had to navigate around traffic, but his last lap time is going to be 2:08.8. So slowly but surely, they're going to be catching our race leader in LMP2. 19 seconds ahead after the pit stops, the first round of pit stops. And here come the GTE cars. They're all starting to come into the pit lane now. Arkadiusz Treba, the one staying out in P5. And Charlie Rigo, our race leader in GTE in the 97 car for On-Off Racing, is extending his lead. Last lap time there, 2:21. Alicia Filito's lap time. 2:21 for Alicia Filito, 2:15 for Charlie Rigo in that Porsche. So Alicia Filito needs to find a lot of time in order to stay in that second place, because Chris Evert, who is in P3, is closing that gap down. So how are they going to respond? Chris Evert is around 20 or so seconds behind, so he's got a lot of work to do, but there's issues for Chris Evert because he could very shortly be under attack from the number 5 machine. We've got the 82 from Mantis Rikas in between the two of them, that Corvette C7. He's under blue flag, so he's going to make way, which he is required to do. But the number 5, with Nicholas Lemoyne, is right on the tail of that Chiba Hawk yellow machine and looking to climb onto third in class. Whereas the 88 as well, because we haven't seen the 88 in quite some time. They're still in P11 in class. 2 hours still remaining in the race. They can probably get up the order with some quick and clever thinking. And the advantage for the 88 now, of course, is that they've already come into the pits early, and when they now have the option of when they want to decide to go on to soft tyres, they can wait this out because they've got a full fuel tank. About half a tank left compared to the guys that are currently running on fumes, and they can analyse the track and actually say, right, now is the best time to switch over to intermediates or mediums or slicks or whatever they decide to do. But they've got an advantage in that respect, so if they play that card right, they can easily come back into the battle. There goes the number 5 down into braking zone of turn 2. Got the 39 as well, and there comes Lucas Lynchen, who's under attack from Eidos Motorsport. He had a bit of a twitchy moment there coming out of turn 1, and the Eidos machine looking to take advantage, can't get it done, but he will get a nice run down towards turn 5. On board then with Kieran Sharp in his cockpit view. That slipstream coming into effect, and he's actually come off the throttle on the run down into turn 5, which is a very strange thing to do. He's looking down the inside now. Who's going to be able to take advantage of this? He's got his nose up alongside, but not diving sufficiently in order to get that done. He probably could have got away with that if he had just committed more to that braking zone. He had a lot of room to play with, but obviously playing it a bit safe. Pim van Ark sets the fastest lap of the race, 2:01.131 for him. So the 41 saying, hey, I'm still in this game, and he's currently sitting in P5 at the moment, but 95 seconds adrift off our leader, so that's more than one lap, or one and a half laps. Kieran Sharp now dropping back just ever so slightly as they come towards, or through the carousel towards the kink. Remember, this is for P6 in class between the Mad E-Hawk car and Eidos Motorsport. And interestingly, he hasn't got his wiper blades on. Obviously not a keen one for looking where he's going. And the 79, that's a very slow 79 car there on the apex of that corner. That's the Nitrous Oxide Motorsport Racing car. And they're currently down in P16 with Bartek Masiek. In P13 in class, running very dangerously slow. And we've had 3 DNFs still at this stage of the race. All the rest of the cars are obviously several laps down, but still going. Of course, if you DNF here, you won't get any points in the championship. But if you get to the checkered flag, then you are still awarded points, which go all the way down to P15, might I add. Okay, now Lorenzo Risi has finally got his act together, now setting his lap times 2:01.962 on the board, which is around half a second quicker than David Junt in that Eidos Motorsport machine. So things are starting to come back down again. The gap has closed up slightly. It's now 16 seconds between David Junt and Lorenzo Risi for the lead of the LMP2s, but it looks like it's slowly beginning to widen once more. In third place is still the Iceberg Racing team by around a minute adrift, though. There's been a large gap between those 3 LMP2 cars, and you then got the 14 from Seawolf Netrace Motorsport holding on to P4. Now Pim van Aert is going to catch up to the 14 very shortly as they come down into the braking zone of turn 5. Up the hill they go, and of course we know Pim van Aert has set the fastest lap of the race with the 2:01.131. Last lap was a 2:01.9, and the 14 car ahead is on 2:03, so it's a fairly large gap in pace between the two teams, and we have no doubt that this is going to be turning into a battle for P4 very shortly. Going through the carousel now. Obviously still no rain hitting the surface here. It is drying ever so slightly. Obviously it's going to take some time to do so. We had a lot of rain here earlier on in the first hour of this race. Waiting patiently for the right moment to strike here for the P4 in class in LMP2. Staying attached to that rear end, not letting the 14 go. He's going to go down the outside line, try and get the undercut. Nice drive on that exit, which he does. Look at the spray hitting the windscreen from the head of the 14 car. And here comes that slipstream coming into effect now as they go across the start finish line. Last lap set was a 2:03 and he's going to go down in the inside of the braking zone of turn 1. They're alongside, and he gets the job done. P4 in the bag there for the 41 machine, and driving into the distance for Pim van Ark. Good stuff there. 14 though, still got the slipstream of the car ahead, but no doubt going to allow them to escape. Oh no, the 41 goes deep into the braking zone of turn 2. Got a bit overexcited there and just overcooks the brakes going into the braking zone and misses the apex completely and runs wide onto the grass. That's also going to cause issues for his tyres for the next few corners, so he's got to be careful how he re-engages onto the grey stuff. Oh, he's on the curbing as well, and that's going to be another spin, half a spin for the 41 car. That curbing on that right hand side, on that braking zone. Obviously you're going from probably the fastest part of the circuit down to one of the slowest, and if you touch the curbing, which is wet, obviously everyone knows that curbing after it's been raining is ridiculously slippery, but that's when the car decided to use that as a braking zone, which is very interesting. Not my choice personally to use that, but he went with it, and that's what resulted in the half spin, because half the car was braking a lot more efficiently than the other. Not a good lap here for Pim van Ark. He's making so many mistakes in that 41 car. Gap is now around 5 seconds to the 14 machine. Licio Filito still holding on to P2 very nicely for Team RSI. It's pretty much secured for the time being. 21 seconds behind is Chris Servet in that Cheaper Hawk racing car, and then if you look ahead, only by around 15 seconds is Charlie Rigo in that on-off racing team. We still have Lucas Lynchen and Kieran Sharp going for it as well. We've got the 82 machine ahead just slightly. That's the Rookie Monster Corvette C7. And Idus Motorsport within striking distance. They will get the slipstream, but so has the number 40 as well. He's going to use that Corvette, which is under blue flags at the moment. Obviously, they don't have to worry about it for a while until they catch up and get a bit closer. But these guys have been pretty much in position to do battle for the last half hour to 40 minutes of this race. Of course, we have now crossed over to the 1 hour mark, so we're now 1 hour and 3 minutes into this race, 2 hours remaining, and still a very wet circuit here at Road America. Still no sign of extra rain in the skies. Looks pretty clear for the time being, luckily for the teams. And here comes the 14 car going down to the inside towards the kink. Of course, the 41 is trying to get away from Pim van Ark, who is also close behind, going towards Canada corner there. So it's going to be a reset play and match for these two teams. This is once again for P4 in class. Only 7 LMP2s actually fighting it out, and 5 of those are on the lead lap still, including the 41. So still opportunities to be had here for the 41 machine, the fair racing car, and they need to get as many points on the board as possible this time round if they're going to stay in the championship contention. And Zarisi's showing no sign of letting up in his lap by lap pace. Last lap was a 2:02, which is the fastest one on track at the moment for his class. So he's extending that gap to around 17 to 18 seconds. Of course, still in second place and enjoying life is David Junt in that 25 IDOS machine. It could be their best result this race or this season if they can hold on to that position. But here comes the 41. He has the extra pace to overtake that 14 machine. He knows he has. Going down into the braking zone of turn 5. Not close enough this time by, but looking down the inside there, found an extra bit of room. course, he was never going to be able to get alongside in those conditions, but he just shows that he has a bit of extra front grip on that fair racing car compared to the 14. Number 5 GTE car in the way through the carousel, holding both of these LMP2 cars up. Just waiting for that right moment to put the throttle down. He starts to go a bit early, trying to get the advantage on the 14. Of course, he gets to go down the inside towards the kink. The 41 holding back, very wise decision to make, and gets the undercut done. Not lost a lot of time, in all honesty. Oh, and the 14 makes a mistake there. That is a massive accident for that 14 machine. He goes wide down into Canada corner, and that means that the 41 moves up into 4th place in LMP2. That was a freebie given away by Seawolf Netrace Motorsport there. And already going up the hill is the 41, and it's going to be at least a 5-second gap before they get to the start-finish line. Got some cars coming into pit lane this time by as well, which is a bit strange. So 1 hour and 53 minutes remaining. Not expecting anyone to actually come into the pits. Lorenzo Risi setting the fastest lap with a 2-minute .596. So the track is slowly drying. We are starting to see better conditions coming into play. Of course, everyone's still on that rain tyre. And Charlie Rigo has come into the pit lane as well, so he's gone all the way down to P6, I believe. No, P5 for Charlie Rigo and that 97 machine. That's your race leader in GTE, coming back out into track limits. And he's actually gone for the soft compound. The first person to even consider going on to slicks. But the question is it the right decision to make? Going into the driver's view, it does look like the racing line is dry. There's a bit of spray still coming off the back of that car. That's where he's going off that onto the wet line though. And you can just see a dry patch where all the cars have gone down that racing line. And he's going to have to be extremely careful about how he navigates his way around this racing circuit. If he has to go wide or makes a small mistake, then that wet surface is going to be greeting him and sending him into the barrier. So, big risk taken there from the 97. Clearly, it's one they feel comfortable with at this moment in time. But will it pay off? We'll just have to keep an eye on them. Alessio Filito, of course, has already come into the pit lane for Team RSI. And there's a fairly large gap between them now, although they are ahead of the 97 at the moment. So different strategies coming into play here this afternoon at Road America. We'll just have to keep an eye on them and see who comes out on top of this one. But definitely that racing line, that optimal racing line, is becoming dry very quickly with no further sign of bad weather on the horizon. Now the question is, how much time are they going to be losing in these conditions in that number 2 machine? They need to think carefully about when is the right time to come into pit lane and go onto softs. And of course, if they do decide to do that, then they will be in trouble, because the number 97 will overtake and return into the race lead. It's all about those blistering tyres though. There's Charlie Rigo in the distance there, so he is catching ground fairly quickly. Last lap times for you coming onto our board was a 3:14 for Alessio Filito, 3:44 for Charlie Rigo. Of course, those lap times are subject to the pit lane. Let's have a look at Alessio Filito then, his last lap times. Yeah, I'm just very surprised that he decided to go with rain tyres again. So they have been able to get the undercut. I reckon they've actually double stinted these rain tyres, because it was a fairly large gap between the two of them before they came into the pit lane. I reckon they're double stinting those rain tyres, hoping that they're going to have to change them to slicks very shortly. But 97's already beaten to the gun with that, because they're of course already on softs. And joining them is Chris Servette as well. Chris Servette in the 37, the second of the GTE cars, decide that it's time to go on to the soft tyre. Seems pretty stable out there at the moment, despite going on a few laps. Where's Charlie Rigo at the moment? Yep, he's still in position and gaining ground on our race leader Team RSI, theoretically of course. Still expecting the number 5, the 23 and the 40 GTE cars to come into the pit lane as well. Obviously they'll be in fuel saving mode, given that we were in low grip conditions earlier, and that is one of the ways that you can make it work in your favour. Just turn the engine mode down just 1 or 2 notches, and that means there's less power going to that rear axle when you're trying to look for that extra bit of grip in wet conditions. So things are starting to calm down just ever so slightly, as the 97 has regained or attached himself to the back of the number 2. Will he get the job done on the run down to start finish though? Spray still coming off the back of that Porsche and hitting the windscreen of the 97. Looks like the slipstream's coming into play now. Those slick tyres coming into play. Of course, this is the problem when you're on slick tyres though, because he knows now that once he gets to the braking zone, he cannot overtake, because if he goes onto the if he goes off the racing line whatsoever, then those slick tyres are not going to grip whatsoever. So he needs to wait patiently for Alessio Filito to either make a mistake, as who's that? That's the 83 going sideways on the exit of turn 2, trying to regain some traction. And Alessio Filito going defensive onto the braking zone of turn 5. I wouldn't personally do that. I would stay on the racing line, which he does. He comes back over to the racing line, realising he's got a bit of room to play with. And he knows he just needs to wait. Alessio Filito can defend very easily at the moment, because those slicks on that 97 aren't going to do anything if he decides to go onto the wet line. So it's all well and good if you're in a position to race for position. If you're just on your own, you've got a nice bit of clear air ahead of you, then sure, go onto the softer compound and get those lap times in. But if you're racing for position and the rest of the circuit is still wet, it's going to be pretty tricky for you to get the job done. Through the kink they go. And a better drive there from the 97. Here we go. Using that excess speed. Oh, he's struggling there on those slicks. As I said, he's going to be struggling. There's a bit of twitchiness, and he's going to go deep into the corner. As predicted, there is no grip off that racing line for someone on slick tyres. That is going to cost him a massive amount of time. And now, if I'm honest, now would be a good time for Alessio Filito to probably come in the pit lane and change those tyres. 97 gets back underway. Alessio Filito moving back up the order in P2 now. No, he's going to stay out on race circuit. But that was the problem. I predicted that was going to happen, and I just knew it. Try and go down the inside when the rest of the circuit is wet. Obviously the racing line is dry, but the rest of the circuit is absolutely drenched. So, including for the LMP2s, it's going to be very tricky for them to get the job done. Pim van Ark now on the intermediate tyre, along with their colleagues in the 33. It's the only LMP2 cars that have decided to go on to the other compounds. We have Trevor Holden in the 35 Proto Hawk car. They've also gone for softs. Very interesting, considering they're going to have to overtake GTE cars off the racing line. So that could be very dangerous, potentially. And things have calmed down ever so slightly in this race. Yeah, around 9 seconds between most of the teams at this stage. Chequered trying to catch up to the number 5. He's around 4 seconds adrift, and the same again from the number 5 to the 23. After the pit stop, the 23 with Mikhail Galka now in charge. They've moved back up the order and are sitting in P4 in their IDOS Motorsport Porsche. So good tactics unfolding there for that team. They too have gone for rain tyres for the second time. Whether or not they're double stinting them, I have a suspicion that they are, because they leapfrogged everyone in the pit lane. Let's have a look at their actual pit time if we can. So going on to the IDOS Motorsport machine, and it looks like they may have just made a mistake, because they've been overtaken by Chequered in that 37 Porsche 911 RSR. So it looks like Mikhail Galka is struggling for grip. Obviously, first time out after that pit stop. Got to get used to the conditions. But this could potentially be the best result for the IDOS Motorsport machine. They're currently sitting in P6 now, as the P6 for that machine, and try and just get back up to speed as best they can. So we'll go through the order, because obviously the main interest here, or the main topic for discussion, is the different tyre compounds and who is on what. So just to give you an idea of what everyone is thinking and what's going through everyone's minds at the moment, we have Lorenzo Ricci and pretty much the entire LMP2 field, with the exception of the Iceberg Racing team, who's currently sitting in P4, Pim Van Ark and the Fair Racing cars, then the 33 and the 41, they're on intermediates. The rest of the LMP2 field is on rain tyres. And if we go over to GTE, a fairly aggressive approach compared to the rest of the grid, because most of them are now on softs, the leading teams. Alessio Filito, who's leading the way in the number 2 Team RSI car, is on rains. We know that they're probably double stinting those, because they had such a short pit lane service. But Charlie Rigo is on softs. Then we have the 39, who's still going with rain tyres. And then the 5, the 37 and the 23 are all on softs again. So you've got a nice mixture of tactics going on. Of course, a lot of teams deciding that the risk is worth taking to stick on that racing line and try and aim for those good lap times as the circuit begins to dry. But it's still a large risk to take. If you decide to overtake, as we saw with the 97 with Charlie Rigo, it doesn't always pay off, and you could find yourself in the gravel trap, which costs you a lot more time than it does going or staying on those rain tyres. You know what, I just love races like this. I love it when weather plays such a huge part. You can't just simply have the fastest man wins anymore. You've got to think, what is the best tyre for the job, and at what time am I going to come into the pit lane? When does it suit us, and when is it going to impact, or how much is it going to impact our overall race? As the leader goes off at the kink at turn 13. Big moment there for Lorenzo Ricci in that 44 machine. He's currently leading by around 19 seconds, clearly trying to push those rain tyres to the limit. Of course, it will start to blister and overheat if he decides to push them a bit too much, but that could have been a big moment there for our championship and race leader here at Road America. Still close behind is David Junt, though. He's coming down into Canada corner as well. Navigates it without issue. One hour and 40 minutes remaining then in this race. Got a few cars in pit lane, unfortunately. That's the car of Daniel Ersting, the 87, and the 77 as well. So not good news for those two BMW teams, as David Junt tries to get some grip into those rear tyres as he navigates his way around the 88 Secura Racing car, who's currently being driven by Adam this time. So Adam now in charge of that 88 BMW machine and sitting in P10 in class. There's still a lot of work to do. He's got an entire lap to make up if he's going to catch up to Simon Marshall in the 81 Porsche. And yeah, it's just not been a good evening or afternoon for the championship leading GTE. Pim van Aert continuing to set faster laps, 156.7 on those intermediate tyres. So it looks like the intermediate is the tyre to be on at this stage. Obviously there's a mixture of dry and wet lines here at Road America in these drying conditions. And of course when you're in the LMP2 class, you've got to think about overtaking these GTEs. So I wouldn't ever recommend going on the soft tyre just yet. Could cause you a few issues when you're in those tricky positions. Got a battle on our hands in the mid-pack GTEs, and this is between the 37, the 40 and the 23. So three-way battle for P5. Leading the way is Eidos Motorsport in that 23 car, as the 37 makes a mistake coming out of that set of corners, but that still leaves the number 40 and the 23 to do battle though. Number 40 goes down the inside. He's going to surely overcook that, which he does, and that's going to end in a half spin and allow the 37 back through. Very ambitious move there by Stefan in that 40 car. And as a result, he's cost him a lot of time. He's down into P7 when he could have potentially taken P3. Now, what tyres are they on? They are on rain tyres in that 40 car. So even though he was on that rain compound, he was struggling for grip down into the braking zone at turn 8. So very tricky conditions, even if you are on the hardest compound available. He will have the slipstream from the 37 ahead, and they're not closing much between the two cars, unfortunately. No overtakes this time by the 40, staying within that slipstream. And here comes the 33, I believe, from the LMP2 Fair Racing team. They get past without any issues whatsoever, and down towards turn 2 they go. '37 has a bit of a tank slapper there, and he goes into the grass as well. The 37 Chequered Hawk car having a lot of issues here this afternoon. Christopher is usually one of the faster teams, or one of the faster drivers here in the grid or the paddock, and what might explain it is that he is on the soft compound in that Chequered Hawk yellow car. So that could be why. Of course the curbing here will remain slippery for quite some time before those tyres get into their optimal temperatures and in their comfort zone, so to speak. And yeah, Christopher has just had further issues because he's now off track. Soft tyres in those GTE cars aren't working whatsoever. And this is what we were saying just earlier. Obviously people are double stinting these rain tyres, and it's working for them because they're on the right compound. They just offer that extra bit of grip as the 40 goes down the inside. Looks for a split second. They were with a split of a hair down the inside line, going through the carousel, but not able to get the overtake done. Through the kink they go at full speed. Flashing his headlights. He's going to send it down the inside line into Canada corner. Has he got the grip to get it stopped in time though? Eidos Motorsport go for the undercut manoeuvre. They're alongside once again. No, he gets the edge on the number 23 car and moves into P4 in class. But Eidos Motorsport not giving up easily. He's going to come back into the slipstream, get that nice run off that last corner and power down onto the main straight again. Bit of a counter steering moment there for Kieran Sharp in that car. Oh, sorry, Mikhail Galka rather, sorry. And there's still spray coming all off the back of the Porsches and that LMP2 car ahead. Your race leader in LMP, Lorenzo Risi, just went by after conducting his pit stop, I think. He's now currently in P2, so let's have a look at Lorenzo Risi. Yep, so that's the second pit stop for the LMP2 class. Lorenzo Risi deciding to go for the soft tyres now, so that is your change in compound for the 44 Reborn Racing machine, and he's going to try and get as much time as possible from those tyres, and clearly thinking it's now time to get off those intermediates and reins. Kieran Sharp still staying firmly attached to the 40 Mad Ehawk Racing machine. And they're really pushing these cars to the limit. Idis Motorsport looking down the inside. Not just yet, though. He's got to wait for that opportunity to present itself. The 40 looks a bit uneven, unsteady through some of these corners. So if he waits patiently, just keeps that pressure applied, then an opportunity may arise. Just got to keep it easy. And that's a slow Iceberg Racing team. They were doing so well this round, staying in P4, but that is not good news for them. They actually lost the rear wing, and looks like the rear wheel of that car is also missing on that car. Here comes Trevor Holden in the 35 Mad Ehawk machine, and he's going by it without issue. Yeah, look, it's crabbing to the left-hand side. Cautions will be out. There's no yellow flags, though, in Sector 3, which is a bit worrying because obviously the guys are not going to be able to see this hazard as they come down towards one of the fastest corners in the circuit. Luckily, nobody was going through the apex at the time. It's going sideways massively. The amount of damage sustained is immeasurable for that 61 car. And they were doing so well, holding on to P4 in class. Would have been their best result this season. And it's all gone horribly wrong in these changing conditions. It catches so many teams out. We've seen a lot of teams already. DNF, 3 actually. Ricardo Beutmann in Hansa Racing car being the other LMP2 that has sadly suffered issues. Now David Junt is on the rain tyre, leading the way for the first time ever, I think, this season in that Eidos Motorsport LMP2 car. It's not usually where you'd see this machine, but doing extremely well in that 25. David Junt deciding when he's going to be the right time to come into the pits now. So going on to the soft tyres in that 25 car. Nearly went into the concrete wall there as he tries to slow down. Of course, the pit entry is extremely slippery, still wet from all the rain we had earlier. And Team RSI still going strong. And you can see what Eliseo Felito is trying or having to do is stay off the racing line. Now the trick is when you've got rain tyres fitted or the rain compound fitted and you're on a drying surface, you want to stay off the racing line as much as possible. And the reason for that is that these will start to blister and overheat as you go through these faster corners. And there's many of them here at Road America. So when he gets the opportunity, he will go off the racing line and get the cooler water covered part of the circuit to cool down his tyres before he gets to the next apex. And as I say that, he doesn't do any of that on the run down to turn 5, but he was doing that on the main straight, which is where most of the standing water is at the moment. But that just tells me that the number 2 machine is beginning to struggle with their tyre temperatures. Of course, in these conditions, the best compound to have on that racing line is soft tyres, or at least mediums. And you can see him trying to find that excess water that's on the off part of the circuit, and that's where he's finding most of that cooling temperature that he needs to keep those tyres working. Last lap for you was a 2:15.6, whereas Charlie Rigo on the soft compound did a 2:12.8. So it's not ridiculously, it's not that much of a margin, a few seconds per lap, considering that they're on a rain compound. But if he needs to rectify that fairly quickly if he's going to maintain the lead of this race. Now Charlie Rigo is just coming through the kink himself in that 97 machine, so he's going to lose the lead of this race regardless. It's just about judging when is the best time to do so, as that's one of the cars off, 2 LMP2s off into the braking zone. That's the 41 car, and someone else, I didn't even see who that was, might have been Hansa Racing. What's going on with these LMP2s? They're just flying off all over the place. And that was the 41 machine, who is now in P3 in class. There's the number 5 car in the pit lane as well. So where is the number 5 at the moment? They are down in P10. And let's go through the cars that are currently on the lead lap. You've got Alessio Filito and Charlie Rigo starting lap 39. But Arkadis Treba, the number 40 and the 23 and the 37, all on the lead lap. So very competitive GTE field here this afternoon for Road America, despite the challenging conditions. And the 88 now moving up into 8th place, ahead of the rookie monster Corvette C7 of Mantis Rica, still in charge of that car. And we have Lorenzo Risi catching up to David Junt for the lead of LMP2. You can just see him going under the lorry bridge. I don't think it actually has an official lane. Should we call it Cheese Bridge? Because obviously that's what it's advertising. Four seconds to go though until we get onto the back of the 25 Eidos Motorsport machine. We're going to go for the inside line here to navigate his way around the 88, which he does. Yep, probably the best way to do it. Bit of breathing space for David Junt, but without a question, Lorenzo Risi is catching up to the leader of LMP2. .5 seconds as he comes across the start finish line this time by. Beginning lap 44 of this race for the leading LMP2 teams. David Junt doing an incredible job there in that 25 car, but he needs to hang on with everything he's got. Now down to 1 second as they come through turn 1. Of course, Lorenzo Risi on that soft compound tyre as they go into one of the fastest parts of the circuit. On the rundown, of course, that rain compound will be struggling now. He goes off the racing line to try and cool down his tyres. Same thing as we saw with Alessio Filito, just trying to get those rain tyres down to stop them from blistering and overheating. And that's what's costing David Junt a lot of time here at this stage of the race. Now halfway through this 3-hour event, 1 hour and 27 minutes remaining, and still a drying track here at Road America for round 7 of the series. And Lorenzo Risi in a prime position to take the lead once more here this afternoon. Going a bit wide on the exit of turn 7. Got to be very careful. Of course, the rest of the circuit is still wet, and those slicks will punish him if he does not take care when overtaking the Eidos Motorsport machine. The number 5 goes wide onto the gravel trap. Is he on slicks as well? Yes, he is, and that's what's caused that. So the number 5, even, is that the number 81 as well, going awry? So that's the problem with these cars. If you are on slicks, once again, I'll say it again, if you go off the racing line, those slick tyres are not going to grip, and that's what we're seeing here so far. And the question is, how is the 44 going to overtake safely? He goes up too wide. Ooh! Gets his nose cut off by the 25. It was a bit of a cheeky overtaking manoeuvre, just trying to sneak up the inside, but no damage caused, luckily, between the two cars. And the run down towards the start finish will surely be in favour of the 44. On board for the cockpit view. And in fact, the 25 is getting away ever so slightly, despite being on the rain compound, which is very surprising. Now Now it's these high-speed corners that will allow the 44 to overtake the lead of this race. Of course, that rain compound will be overheating near the end of this stint. It's amazing how David Junt is actually holding on to the position as much as he is currently, because the two compounds are further away from one another, as you could imagine. And he's going to go onto the off the racing line there. Defensive manoeuvre from David Junt. Of course, got to be careful. One defensive manoeuvre allowed per corner, so got to be careful he's not considered blocking if he continues to do that. I mean, if I was in David Junt's shoes, I would just allow the 44 to go off the racing line. Of course, in these conditions, he's on slicks, and the rest of the track is still wet at this stage. So if the 44 wants to overtake, then let him do so, but he's got to take the risk of going onto the rest of the circuit, which is still wet and slippery. We saw it earlier in the GTE class, the 97 of One Off Racing, who tried to overtake Alessio Filito down into Canada Corner, which is the one we've got in front of us now. That resulted in them going into the gravel trap and just avoiding the barrier. As they go too wide down into the corner, that's a bit of a blocking manoeuvre there from the 25. Can't be too aggressive if they're already alongside. Got to be careful. Luckily, the 44 was wise to it and didn't allow contact to be made. Now the 44 is surely going to get the run down towards the next set of corners. Alessio Filito and the Team RSI car is in the way. They both go around the outside off the racing line. There's spray coming off the back of these cars as they make their run down towards turn 1. Is Lorenzo Risi going to be close enough to make the move? No, he's not. He knows that the racing line is the only place that he can place his car and safely make an overtake. So David Junt using this knowledge to his advantage and getting on with the job of defending that position. Now here he comes down on the inside. The 44 surely will get the job done on the run down to turn 5. No, even now he can't get the power down quickly enough, as the number 25 is able to just keep ahead just by the skin of his teeth, just doing the minimum required to stay ahead of that car. And it's only the corners where he's really struggling for grip. Bit of a sideways moment there for the 25, counter steering into the underneath that bridge. Oh, and that's the problem. There's that 44 off that racing line, and those slicks do not want to grip onto that wet surface whatsoever, and that's cost him a lot of space between those two cars. That is exactly what I said would happen. If you try and overtake off that racing line, your slick tyres aren't going to do anything for you. In fact, they're going to work against you in those conditions. So David Junt, questionably a bit aggressive defending there, but he knows he's on that rain tyre, and it's advantageous to be on that because he has the flexibility to go off that racing line and defend that position when he needs to. Gap is now up to 4.5 seconds, and Pim van Ark is on the lead lap as well, lap 46 of this race. So Pim van Ark is on a really strong performance, last lap 2:04, and he is making his way back into competition here with these leading machines. Okay, we are now halfway through the race, 1 hour and 21 minutes remaining here for round 7 of the series. Going to go for a quick commercial break, guys, so don't go anywhere. Things have calmed down ever so slightly now in this race. We'll wait for Lorenzo Risi to catch back up to David Junt, which is inevitable because of course he is on softs, but we'll bring back the action just after these few adverts. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back. We are live for round 7 of the WSCC or World Sports Car Challenge. We are at a very wet and rainy Road America at the moment. So back from our small commercial break, we did unfortunately miss the overtake between the 44 and the 25. It happened down into the carousel, and on the inside line went Lorenzo Risi in that 44 Reborn racing car and got the move done in amid GTE traffic. So he now moves back into the lead of the race for the LMP2, and David Junt down into second place. Still on rain tyres though for David Junt in that IDOS Motorsport car, and closing the gap is Pim van Ark and the 69 Hansa Racing team behind. They're both on intermediates as well. Some of the LMP2s are also suffering badly. The 83, 61 and the 35 are all suffering from fatigue or issues, because they're all the way down the mid-pack in P13, 14 and 15. Leading the way in GTE is Charlie Rigo in your 97 machine. He still holds a comfortable lead over Team RSI, who are in second place and currently around 20 seconds behind. Then we have the 39 Chequered racing car, and the next competitive car is the number 40 Mad Ehort racing team. So the LMP2 is going in the mid-pack, causing a bit of chaos, but of course Adam in the 88 Secura racing car back up into P7 now. So good recovery drive there from Secura Racing, coming all the way back from P12 and slowly but surely making their way back up the order. They're currently on lap 43, whereas the leading GT is on lap 46. Those repairs that they had to take after they made their mistake is still a lot of work to do if they're going to get back into the top 5 in class. In fact, they have to overtake Team RSI 3 times if they are to take that position away from them. And funny enough, they're right alongside each other right now. Adam saying, right, I want to unlap myself. I'm trying to make progress here. And they're both on soft tyres as well. So Team RSI are on rain compound still. So double stinting that rain compound as before. And they're playing the long game here. The thing is that the track isn't that dry. I mean, we were saying earlier how the only safe piece of tarmac for those on soft tyres is on the optimal line. Of course, overtaking is pretty much impossible for some of the teams here if they come under pressure. Team RSI just allowing Adam to go through. They know that he's probably not going to be able to make up 3 laps worth of time in an hour and 12 minutes left of racing. So just let him go. No, don't cost us any time and let us carry on with our own battle. Now, Pim van Ark is around 80 seconds adrift from David Junt in that second place LMP2 team, with David Junt still behind the wheel. Live timing is available for you. It is here. And for those of you that want to look at the results as well, or the standings for this championship, then have a look at the second link for you. And that will take you to a PDF file with all the current teams and standings. Now, live timing is confusing me slightly because, of course, we do have a few LMP2 teams amongst all of our GTE cars as well, so it's pretty hard to decipher who is actually fighting and who is just simply getting out of the way of traffic in a different class. And we've had a few drive-thrus issued, one of which is to the 33 for dangerous driving. Nearly causing 2 major incidents after suffering damage. And then there's a 10-second stop-and-go penalty as well for the 83. So the 83 is the LMP2 rookie monster car as well. And they're already having a bad afternoon, all the way down in P7 in class. It's currently being driven by Christos Segunas. And that's going to be just another bit of, you know, a cherry on top for them. For this round of the championship. Oh, the Iceberg Racing car has DNF'd, so it was a strong start for the team. They have suffered severe damage though at the later stages of the event, and therefore they're going to have to retire and place that LMP2 car back in the garage. All these raining conditions really proving difficult for a lot of the guys out there this afternoon. Oh, and there's a stationary 23 car. That's more casualties arising. That's a 77 MRT racing car. That is more and more casualties rising here at Road America. This is not good news for that team. Currently sitting in P14. They already had a bad afternoon so far, and they've been racing with the 87 from F1 Bros Racing. And look, there's no rear wheel on that car. No rear left wheel on that BMW whatsoever. And that's going to be a very long wait until he gets the essential repairs that he needs. Lorenzo Risi setting the fastest Sector 1 time here this afternoon in the leading Reborn Racing machine. Looks like the 77 has run out of steam. Can't get itself up the hill. Is there any movement inside that cockpit? Yeah, he's revving the nuts off the thing. Just can't get it to move whatsoever. There's not any grip on that rear axle, and it looks like it may be a DNF for the 77. Must have been a hell of a collision into the barrier. Of course, coming through the kink, that would have been the most likely the culprit. Not much going on inside the cockpit now. Yeah, he's had to retire the car. That's another casualty on the board. Only 21 cars alive and still running here this afternoon for round 7 of the WSCC. Just goes to show you need to practice in all conditions as much as you can, as otherwise it's going to cause a lot of issues on race day. And sadly, one of the cars that did not sadly make it, talking about retirements, is Ricardo Boykman in the 42. He's in the commentary box with us. Not a very good afternoon for you guys in the Hansa Racing team. Tell us how you found, tell us how you found Road America, and you know, obviously the first rainy race of the season. Has it caught you guys out?
Actually not. I mean, yeah, we were a little bit wondering because it was raining, and no one ever trained on the server on wet conditions, so it was a little bit challenging. But I think both of our cars had quite a lot of pace from the get-go. I mean, okay, our qualifying for the 42 was not the best. I think we were last, but when I tried to be more on the careful side. It's sometimes a little bit better on such conditions to start from the back and just let the carnage unfold in front of you and drive by and be happy. And also the first few laps were pretty good. We were up to 6 or 5 at some point, but well, it's difficult conditions, and one GTE spun exactly in front of me on the fast kink in the middle sector, and well, collected me, and that was technically game over after that.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of teams struggle in these conditions, and I think what's interesting more is it's probably my favourite condition to race in, is when you go from the transition of raining to drying conditions. So once the rain stops and you get that racing line start to appear, it really splits the grid in terms of what decision they're making, whether or not it's ready to go into the softs or whether or not they're going to stay on intermediates or wets.
Oh yeah, it's really mad out there. I mean, we are also looking into the tires, who's on which tires, and just the top 3 of the LMP. I mean, okay, now they are changing, but we had 3 different kind of tires. We had slicks for Lorenzo, P2 was on full wets, and P3 was on inters. But now I think Pimfang is changing forward to inters as well. No. P2 is still on rain tires, so...
Yeah, David Johnson on the 25 still on rain tyres. So how have you found Road America then? Of course, it was originally going to be Laguna Seca. Do you think it was a wise change? Have you settled into Road America?
Yes, it was a wise change. I mean, of course, Laguna Seca is a great track. But it's even shorter than what was the other Hillary's short track we had before? Road Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, 30 cars or so in about 1 minute. It's a little bit cramped on the circuit, and that would only be carnage over carnage. It would be a first hour like Road America. Road Atlanta. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
So I think it's better that we gone here to this track. Sad for us because we are getting crashed out, but.
So what's on the table for the 69? Of course, they're currently in P3, as I believe Cliff Van der Vintage has come into the pit lane. What are you aiming for, a podium finish with that sister car?
We hope at least a podium. I mean, we have the pace for the podium finish, and we should have. It's all a little bit of timing right now. when we can switch to the slicks. I mean, they look fast at the moment, but it's still a little bit tricky because the wet line is still pretty wet, and you don't want to risk it with the traffic.
Well, we've seen that already with several teams, including leading GTEs and Lorenzo Arisi as well, trying to get by some of the cars that are still on rain tyres and having massive moments in Nili, obviously causing damage to their cars.
Yeah,
So I think the intermediate for the LMP2 at least is the right choice, because at least then if you do need to overtake a GTE car, you can come off the line and not die instantly in a ball of fire.
I mean, he does put fast laps in. I have to say, 57s and 55s are really fast on these current conditions. But also, Fabian is also, if he has a clean lap, he's also putting down 55. So um, it's quite on the verge at the moment which tire is faster. But because we have so much traffic around, it's better at the moment to be on the intermediates, I would say. But over time, if it's not start raining again, the slicks will get faster, and we must soon change as well. But we probably will do it in our next pit stop or stop after that.
Well,
Depends how fast the tracks will.
I'm going to leave you in a happy mood because
Right.
Fabian Walter has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:54, which is an entire second and a half faster than what Lorenzo Risi has set.
I know.
So, best of luck for the rest of the race for the sister car. And once again, thank you for popping into the commentary box. Always a pleasure. And better luck at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time, bud.
Yeah, we hope we can make it.
Alright, take it easy and see you then.
See you around.
So that was Ricardo Boykman, one of the Hansa Racing cars. Sadly, a DNF for them in their 42 machine. But their sister car just setting the fastest lap of the race here this afternoon in the LMP2 class. So definitely one to keep an eye on, especially for the likes of Cliff van der Veen in that 41 Fair Racing car. So it could be a battle for P3 coming up if by the time we get to the end of the race we're now officially in the last remaining hour in just 60 seconds time. Have a battle on our hands between one of the... No, okay, that's my mistake. That was actually... The 88 is just been overtaken by the 83, which is a LMP2 car, so that's not a pass for position, of course. They are completely different machines. We've had quite a lot of DNFs in the last half of this race, of course. The raining conditions changing from wet to dry. People taking risks and going onto the softer compounds. Just hasn't really worked out for some of the guys and resulted in a lot of damage. Last one was obviously the 77, and we've also got one of the drivers for the 35 in with us, which is Trevor Holden. Welcome to the commentary box, Trevor. You still there, Trevor?
Yeah, I'm here, mate.
Right, so it's your debut performance in the Proto Hawk car, the first of showing for the LMP2 machine. How's it gone so far?
Well, I think the rain certainly caught me out because I'm pretty sure my lack of wet weather racing certainly showed what happened with the major contacts. I actually lost a wheel during one of the stints, so I had to spend about almost 5 minutes in the pits for repairs. But I got the car recovered up to a P20, from P20 up into P15, so that's good. But other than that, my first stint in the car for the debuting Proto Hawk car. It's a new experience from the GTEs after running with the guys over at Hawk 4 for quite a while after, especially at P4, my debut Rfactor2 endurance race over at a Slovakia ring a couple months back. But it's certainly a new experience, but I'm loving every minute of it still. But I just think today just wasn't our race to beat.
So you're currently sitting in P7 at the moment, but amid the GTEs, you say it's your first time in the LMP2. How's that compared to the GTEs?
Oh, well, definitely with the rain as a factor, it's not as substantial. But once you get into the dry running, it's much more speed, much more downforce, and you just got to have quicker reflexes. More importantly, it's certainly a different class of cars. and it's certainly really exciting once you when you see these prototypes just with the 600 horsepower Gibson in the back of these engines. It's really nice, and it's certainly a new experience regardless. But it's really nice to enjoy the new class of prototypes in the World Sports Car Challenge.
And how are you finding the changing conditions here? Of course, we've seen a lot of teams struggle. Some of them went to softs too early, some going too late, and of course, everyone seems to be setting faster lap times on intermediates and at different stages of the race. So, what's the 35's approach to the changing conditions, and how are you coping with them?
Well, I think the 35's strategy from here on out is pretty much just try and have damage limitation when possible. Of course, while I was driving the car, obviously of course I said I had the lack of wet weather racing, but uh, there's not much to be said. It's just I just made a lot of mistakes on the road. All of that could be fixed, obviously, had I simply checked the weather. uh, but I just wanted I think to answer your question about the switching to either intermediates or softs, at the beginning of my stint, actually, not the beginning, the end of my stint was where we were seeing the laps dip into the sub 2 minute marks, and I think they're at the 55 or 54 second range at the moment. But the laps are certainly falling with the track drying up. Obviously, there are still some slick parts of the track out there as well, but there is certainly a dry line forming within the race. But throughout the whole field, I think it's very interesting to see who is on what compound of tires, either intermediates or softs. So it's very interesting right now in the race.
Well, of course, you are, as you say, you're doing damage control and managing your pace at the moment, currently in P7 in class. What are you expecting from Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time? And of course, it is a 6-hour race. You're going to be going into nighttime conditions. Do you see yourself finishing in a certain position, or is something you're aiming for at 35?
Well, certainly Watkins Glen is actually a special place. It's actually my home racetrack, actually. So
Great place
I
to
live
be in the
about
world, then.
yeah. So I live about less than 4 hours away. I'm actually going to the actual circuit this summer for the actual 6 hours of Glen. So that's going to be pretty nice. So to experience it in Rfactor2 is going to be one thing, but then seeing the cars in reality is going to be another thing. So um, I'd say as the car manager, Watkins Glen is definitely a track where I'll definitely feel more prepared for it. Obviously, hoping that there's no rain, but in case there is, I'm certainly going to be more ready for it. But yeah, I think Watkins Glen is going to be a very interesting race, nonetheless.
Well, you're a very lucky man to be going there to see the real stuff in, I take it it's IMSA, yeah?
Oh yeah, certainly. I got on the Protohawk car, we've actually got we got the I think it's just behind the window place. We got Goro on board. Shout out to the guys over the Global on the Race Organization. You guys know who you are. That's one of the leagues in Gran Turismo Sport that I also co-manage as well. So I appreciate Lucas for getting the car all ready to go and prepped up here. Yeah, I actually got a guy from the Goro side of things who coming over from Germany as well, we're going to be meeting up for the first time. We're also going to have another guy from the United Kingdom who's in the league that I run with as well. We'll be meeting up for the first time as well. So it's going to be a special day and a special weekend, obviously, for when we all meet up.
Yeah, sounds like good fun. Well, best of luck for the rest of this race and in 2 weeks' time at Watkins Glen. And fingers crossed you can get in the top 5.
Thank you very much for having me in the commentary booth, by the way, as well.
All right, no worries. All right, take it easy, bud, and I'll see you around.
You too.
So that was Trevor Holden, one of the drivers for the 35 Proto Hawk car. Not a great afternoon for them. Obviously, as he just said, he made a few mistakes under the rainy conditions. Of course, it was absolutely pelting it down about an hour and a half ago here for round 7. Still drying as a result of that heavy rain that we suffered from in the earlier stages of this race, but now we are seeing a lot of the teams deciding to finally go for the soft compound. I've been watching Daniel Vidamari for the last few laps as we've been interviewing Trevor Holden, and he has now already conducted his last final pit stop and is on the soft compound. So we're waiting for the number 40 Mad Hawk Racing car to come into the pit lane, and then it will be a sprint to the finish. And now he will have to go up against Charlie Rigo in that 97 machine before he gets a chance or have a go at fighting for the overall lead. There's a lot of work to do then for Team RSI, but it is within striking distance, I believe, as the 97 still needs to come into the pit lane. Charlie Rigo has been in control of the car since the get-go. Yeah, that is correct. And last time they came into the pit lane for you was on lap 29, so we're currently sitting on lap 56 for this race, so he will be due into pit lane any minute now. So the double stinting of those tyres, those rain tyres for Team RSI, played their part and have now been discarded out the window, and now it's going to be plain and simply put your foot down as best you can and get to the end of this race trying to catch that number 97. Now the question is, how will Charlie Rigo and On-Off Racing respond in that 97 Porsche 911 RSR? Are they going to double stint their tyres, or are they going to spend extra time in that pit lane changing for that new set of rubber? They're currently going down into turn 5 braking zone now, and in between the two cars, oh actually number 40 has just come into the pit lane as I've just said that. So Stefan in the pit lane, he's changing his tyres, the rear axle has just been dropped back onto the race surface again, and he will get back underway very shortly. Sitting in P3 for that number 40 car, and strong performance from then. Where is David Junt? David Junt is in the lead of this race as the 44 comes into the pit lane as well. So the 44 has just come in to get a driver change conducted. Now in behind the wheel is Luca Emilio, and he has got in the car 2 laps ago at lap 60. We're now currently on lap 61. So that is their last driver change conducted, you would hope. 51 minutes remaining here at Road America. There may be a splash and dash at the end before we get to the checkered flag. We'll have to wait and see, but he may be able to get to the end of this race. David Junt still needs to come into the pit lane himself, and that will be a reset button, and he will retake the lead of the race in that reborn racing car. Okay, let's get one of the Cheeple Hawk Racing drivers in with us. This is with the 39, which is the Cheeple Hawk white car. Currently doing a good job at sitting in P3 with Denis Pimenov in charge. Welcome to the commentary box, Arcadius, and fairly strong performance from Cheeple Hawk overall in both machines here this afternoon.
Yeah, that was crazy 2 hours of racing. We hadn't got much pace on the rain, but I managed to stay of the track and don't get involved into any serious accidents. I had one accident with the MP2 car spinning, and that caused me a little bit of damage. But yeah, my other competitors were definitely had a lot more bad luck than us, and here we are on the P3. I hope that Denis will stay on the podium.
Well,
yeah, but Stefan is really quick, and we will see.
Well, it's been a good battle between you, the number 40, the 23, and your sister car in the 37 for pretty much half the race now. But things have calmed down slightly. Are you still due a pit stop, or are you pretty much sprinting to the finish from here on?
I think that was the last pit stop for us. We pitted an hour to go. So Denis is saving fuel a little bit, and I think we should be fine. I was really struggling a lot on the last minutes of my stint because I decided to double stint the wets, and on my last minute of the stint the track was drying, and my left front was completely dead. I was locking everywhere and I had to pit. So I hope that Denis will manage today and with this fuel.
We still got a lot of work to do in the 39. It's about 30 seconds separating all the cars involved for the remaining 48 minutes or so. Do you think you can hold off that sister car or the number 40?
had an accident.
And actually, you've just been involved in an accident, yeah, with the number IDOS Motorsport cars, the 25, with Nick Newcomb behind the wheel, going into turn 7. Looked like a fairly nasty collision there. Let's have a look in the driver's cockpit, see if there's actually any damage. This isn't the commentator's curse, this is your fault for coming in the waiting room. So, but seems to be okay. There's not much steering angle, looks to be going in a straight line, luckily. It's a bit, it's steering slightly to the left by the looks of things, but it looks like you got away with that one, luckily.
Yeah, I already had this damage from the first stint. I'm not sure if that's...
Oh, that's alright then. So it's not new damage, thank God, because it looked like a right old tank slapper on the right-hand side of that car. But this has brought the number 40 into play as well, as he's now around 1.5 seconds behind, going through Canada Corner and the last 2 remaining of Sector 3. And that's definitely probably made your heart rate go up slightly, hasn't it?
Yeah. I'm a little bit worried about this fight.
But let's, while we're waiting for that to all resettle down, it doesn't look like it's caused you too much damage. But have you found Road America and the changing conditions compared to the other teams? Well, we already know that a lot of teams have suffered a lot worse than what you have. But, you know, you was in the car for most of the rain, and how did the car handle in those conditions?
I had 0-0 practice on the rain before the race. We had a dry setup, so it was really hard for me. I think we were slower in the rain condition than in the second part of the race. But yeah, I was trying to do my best. I really like Road America and all the American tracks, like Road Atlanta, and Watkins Glen.
So, what's your approach towards Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time then, from a team's perspective? Are you looking to do well there? Are you expecting to do well there? Have you got a target in mind?
Yeah, I think the good result will be a top 5, maybe podium, because it's a 6-hour race, so a lot can happen.
Yeah. Well, we've still got 46 minutes left for round 7. It's going to have a nice battle on our hands between yourselves and the number 40. Do wish you guys the best of luck, and yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for Watkins Glen as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Right, bud, take it easy. So that was Arktis Treba, part of the 39 Cheever Hawk white car. Obviously, one just got collected by Nick Newcomb in that 25. Looks like it might have been a situation where, obviously, using that wet racing line, or so the wet line off what they're used to. Of course, every car now is pretty much on slicks. In fact, actually, the 25 is on intermediates. The only LMP2 that is on softs is the 44, and they're actually setting times a lot slower than Cliff van der Veen in that 41 machine, actually 5 seconds slower. Last lap time for Cliff van der Veen was 1:55.5 on intermediates, so it definitely seems like the better tyre to take at this stage. And the number 40, what on earth has happened to the number 40 there? Is it just goes into the wall? Stationary on what is essentially a straight line before the braking zone at turn 1. What has happened? Maybe a disconnect of his wheel or another issue, but that car doesn't sound like it's ticking over at all. Yeah, the number 40 now gone back into pit lane. So what has happened there? Another DNF for the 40 car. They are falling thick and fast in the closing stages of this race. Still 44 minutes remaining. Lorenzo Arisi and his teammate in the 44 car still leading the way by around an entire minute compared to Nick Newcomb in that number 25 car. Now, will the 41 be able to catch up in time before that checker flag is flown? He's got around 30 to 40 seconds gap between IDOS Motorsport and the Fair Racing team. So he could potentially catch up in time to make the overtake. We'll have to wait and see how that unfolds. And let's have a look at the leaders of GTE, still in the hands of Charlie Rigo, and that 97 machine still going strong at the moment. To apologise, it's not Charlie Rigo anymore, it's his teammate in charge, no doubt taking it to the checkered flag for on-off racing. Daniel Vidamari still in second place though, and let's see what the gap is to them. 39 seconds separating them. It's a tall order for 43 minutes left of racing. Last lap times for you on the board was a 2:09 for Daniel Vidamari. Let's see what the 97 is bringing to the board. 2:15. But of course that is also taking into consideration that he just came into the pit lane, or just come out of pit lane. Got a civil war between all the rookie monster cars here, as the 82 takes back P8 in class from Angus Tong. Yeah, number 81 entering pit lane from P9. We've also had to drive a change for the number 5 car as well, so they're on their way back into contention. They've had a pretty strong race for their debut performance here for round 7. They're going to be able to climb back up into P9 as they're going to overtake that 81 machine while it's in pit lane, getting some more fuel for the final time. Yeah, so that they go back into P9 for them, not an issue. Not many survivors left here this afternoon at Road America. It just shows what a bit of rain can do to a grid. It can really spice things up and throw everyone around, but the 44 definitely rising to the challenge, leading the way here this afternoon with a nice comfortable lead of over a minute now, 1 minute and 10 seconds to be exact, as he comes across the timing line. 1:59 was the last lap he set. 1:58 was Nick Newcomb's last lap time. Going deep into the braking zone of turn 8, gets it on track just in the nick of time before the 88 became an issue once more. Not really much going on at the moment, unfortunately. Things have calmed down a lot since we last looked at the live timing. We've got the 81 Rookie Monster car trying to catch up to the number 5, but that's a gap of around 30 seconds. And in the closing stages of this race, we'll have to keep an eye on the lead battle for GTE as well. Still 35 seconds adrift. Their last lap times, both 2:09s. Daniel Vidamari around half a second quicker on that last lap. So he is closing that gap down, but very, very slowly indeed. And he's only got 39 minutes left in this race. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed this race, it's been full of action here this evening. Got a yellow flag in sector 3 for one of the cars. Got the 37 lapping the 32. other than that, there's no really close action going on in Sector 3, so not too sure what the yellow flag was for. Whatever it was, it has since cleared itself up and is no longer an issue. Oh, there's been a mistake for the race leader. The race leader in GTE is off, and that must have been at the kink, because that's quite a substantial amount of damage to the rear end of that Porsche. And that means that Team RSI lead for the first time this season with a chance to win. Of course, they have been leading after some pit stop strategies, but usually, obviously officially, they were down in P5 or something. But it's finally their time to shine this season as that number 97 machine comes back into pit lane. This could be advantage to the number 39 car as well, with Denis Pimelov. They're coming down into Sector 2 at the moment. And yeah, Daniel Vidamar in Team RSI lead in GTE with 37 minutes remaining. He's got a nice clear bit of track ahead of him now, sitting in that RSI machine, currently in P7 overall. He's got ahead the 17th place car of Angus Tong, which is in a fellow GTE, but of course blue flag should be out and he can get past that quite quickly. He's also got Nick Newcomb coming up behind him in the LMP2 class, so got to be careful how he navigates that, but it's advantage Team RSI in the closing stages of this 3-hour race. Now, where is Denis Pimelov in that 39 car? And where is it? They're still in pit lane at the moment, and they're on the lead lap, so they're going to be able to take this position away from the 97 car and move up into second place for the Chiba Hawk White team. There he goes, Denis Pimenov in second place now. And of course, we've got the 23 IDOS Motorsport with Mikhail Galka on the same lap as well. So this could be a podium finish for IDOS Motorsport. That 97 machine is not moving, and here comes Mikhail Galka, IDOS Motorsport in third place at Road America. This will be their best result this season, and in fact in any CFEG event as well. So great news for IDOS there this afternoon. Great stuff. Of course, sad news that the 97 has crashed out, though. Of course, that must have been at the kink. I can't imagine anywhere else where that would have happened. But of course, we'll have to find out in the replay at another time. Of course, we don't have replay function here on this live stream, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would investigate that and look into it. Our race leader still going strong. Gap of around 80 seconds now. It's 1 minute 10, or 20 rather, 1 minute 20. Still on the lead lap though for IDOS Motorsport in their LMP2 car as well. It's going to be a strong weekend for the team overall. Got number 5 there going wide, and that's in P8 in class. Are they fighting for that position behind with Angus Tong? No, they're not. Speaking of which, where is the 88 car? We haven't seen them in a while, and they've made their way back up into P5 in class. That's a really strong recovery drive for Secura Racing to come back all the way from P12. Of course, a lot of the teams are suffering damage, etc, etc, and simply just by staying out on track, they've been able to get all of that ground back and back into the top 5. So good result for them considering what's happened to them. A lot of damage sustained on that BMW car, and they've still got to unlap themselves twice if they want to attack the next competitive car, which is the 97. And that may well happen. Of course, we know the 97 is in the pit lane, so depending on how severe the damage is, that 97 car may all go down to P5 as well. We've just had a penalty issued for the 35 car, which is the prototype Hawk machine, and they're currently sitting in P7 all the way down in 15th place, well off the pace, and sadly it's going to be further bad news for them as they go into the pit lane to serve that penalty. Cliff van der Ven and that 41 machine closing the gap to Nick Newcomb in the IDOS Motorsport car. And they've got Lorenzo Risi ahead of them as well. So that's your race leader just ahead of that 41 car. And this is a familiar sight to have here at CFEG and in WSCC as well. Usually they're on the same lap at this stage of the race and fighting for position. But this time by, unfortunately, the 41 is a lap down. But he will start to unlap himself as he goes into turn 1 braking zone, taking that position away. He's got to find around 35 to 30 seconds of time before he gets to attack the IDOS Motorsport LMP2 car. Now Nick Newcomb just needs to keep it clean and stay on track. That's all he needs to do in order to take it home for IDOS Motorsport. 32 minutes left in this race. Can it be done? We'll just have to wait and see in the next half an hour or so as to whether or not Cliff van der Ven has done enough to take that P2 away from them. I mean, despite the damage at the earlier stages of this race, the 41 cars had a strong recovery drive as well, which isn't too surprising considering that they're second in place in the championship. But of course they need those extra points to make sure that Lorenzo Risi and the Reborn Racing car doesn't get away from them in the championship standings. Don't forget, guys, if you are enjoying the stream or you have enjoyed this race this afternoon, then give us a like and subscribe. Hit that notification button for all new videos and live streams upcoming in the future. Of course, in 2 weeks' time, it will be the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. That's going to be one to watch. Great circuit, great for multi-class racing, and it's definitely going to be a great experience for all those involved. Bad news for IDOS Motorsport there. Did I see Mikhail Galka moving slowly? I did, and that car has no rear wing attached to the back of it, and that's immense damage. Seems to be a lot of casualties occurring in the latter stages of this 3-hour race. Half an hour left, and they're going to lose positions due to this. The 97 is out back on track again, up to racing speed once more, and he's going to lose this position. If he can't get that car back out on track within the next 2 laps, which is 3 minutes of time or 4 minutes of time, then there goes one of them, the 97 going by on the left hand side of your screen, and that means one less lap to go. Lap 63 has started for that 97 car, and Mikhail Galka needs to get it back on track within the next minute and a half if he's to retain that podium position for IDOS Motorsport. On board with the 39 of Chiba Hawk Racing, still holding on to P2 at the moment. The gap towards Daniel Vidimari and Team RSI is well over 1 minute. So once more, they can just sit back, relax, get those lap times in, and wait for that podium finish to be and finally announced when that checkered flag is waved. Has there been a mistake made by Cliff van der Ven here? Because his gap has now extended all the way to around 50 seconds. Lap 64, 2:03, he's made a mistake. He did not come into the pit lane or that time by, and that means that he's gone back all the way down to around 50-second gap between Nick Newcomb and himself. So bad news arising for the 41 Fair Racing car as well. Just have a look through the live timing, see what we've got in front of us. Anything going on? Where is Mikhail Galka? Has Mikhail Galka finally got back onto track limits? No. So the IDOS Motorsport car stays in pit lane, And here comes that 97 machine. On lap 64, and that is the third place position taken back by the on-off racing car. So back onto the podium points for their debut performance here at the WSCC. Other than that mistake that they've made, it's been pretty much a spotless race for them. Just goes to show one mistake can cost you everything, especially with the damage model that we've got here installed at CFEG. Careful with that 14 car as he comes, tries to get back onto the track limits again. Nearly cuts off the nose of that Porsche. Now, interestingly, there are still some teams out there on rain tyres. So, it's very interesting to see, and intermediates even. A lot of the LMP2 teams are on intermediate tyres. The only current running LMP2 cars that are on slicks are the 35 and the 44, so that's only 2 out of 7 cars that are currently on the slicks. So, for those of you watching on the live stream, what has been the best part of this afternoon in the race? What has been the most engaging part and the most enjoyable to watch here this afternoon? Who is the driver and team of the day, for in your own words? No self-voting. Self-voting is not allowed. Had some pretty awesome stuff unfold this afternoon. Some questionable. It's been pretty hectic. A lot of the teams being caught out by the raining and changing conditions here. Even now, there is some spray coming off of these cars. Oh yes, completely agree. The Inters are the better choice of tyre for the LMP2s. As already just mentioned just a few seconds ago, there is spray still coming off the circuit when you go off that racing line. So it's better to have those Inters on your LMP2, so you've got the option to overtake easily without having to think about dying or going just straight ahead once the water becomes an issue. Of course, the sunset is starting to go down now, so we're starting to get a bit of an orange glow here at Road America. It's always nice to see. Obviously, the shadows from the tree line there in the distance as you go on the run down to turn 5. Always looks great in Rfactor2 when you have the transition from day and into night. It really brings the sim to life, especially with all these bright colours going on. Of course, the teams don't have to worry about nighttime racing. We've only got 24 minutes left in this race, so the sun will remain here for the rest of this round. But it's just nice to have a little bit of a sunset here for each of the rounds. Oh, and that's the Rookie Monster 81 car going into the wall at the top of the hill. That's at turn 6 there, and don't really know what happened to Angus Tong in that 81 machine, but seemed to just lose control and headbutt the concrete wall. Of course, for those of you that are wondering how that ends, the concrete wall usually wins in that particular scenario, so I wouldn't personally advise doing it. old rivals here in WSCC. This was basically rinse and repeat of last year or last season when we had Team RSI in their Bentley Continental GT3, and it was the BMW M8 of what was then Poland Sim Racing, but still the same drivers. So Daniel Vidomari, Alicia Filito, you know, Adam and Greg Otts as well. But role reversal for the season. The 88 is still in the championship by a fairly large margin. They've currently got 182 points on the board. Team RSI, 104 for them currently, so it's a fairly large gap to them, and they're currently sitting in 4th place. Of course, the next competitive car is Team RSI. Sorry, not Team RSI, I meant Rapid Racing in the 13, but of course they've sadly DNF'd. So at this, as things stand, Team RSI will go up into 2nd position in the championship standings. The 37 has got currently in P6, I believe. Yeah, the 37 is in 3rd place in the championship standings with 110 points. This would make a great story, wouldn't it, if they came back in the championship to fight for the lead in GTE. Now, blue flags will be out at this point in time for the 88. Of course, they are a lap down, currently sitting in P4. So they have overtaken the Idus Motorsport 23 car after their woes in the pit lane. Of course, they have had to take substantial repairs, as has the 88, mind you. They haven't exactly had the best weekend either. But Daniel Vidomari on the tail of that 88 car, he will put them a lap down if he is able to get past. They're now starting lap 70 for the GTEs, and Adam is currently on lap 67, so 3 laps adrift of the leader then. However, Adam can still catch the 97 car. They're currently on the same lap as one another, and the gap between the 2 cars is over 1 minute, so it's over half a lap between them. That's a lot of work to do if they're going to be able to make that work. And we're going to go over to a battle for position between some of these cars in the GTE class. And as I say that, it looks like there's an issue for one of the cars involved, and that's a rear wing. Ooh, runs over it, and be very surprised if he doesn't get a puncture from that. Whose rear wing was that? See if there's any cars moving slowly through the corner. We have one straight, yes, the Corvette C7 from the 32 machine. One we haven't paid much attention to, and that's the Team Autonauts C7. So bad luck for them. They're currently sitting in P13 in that Corvette C7. And I would have thought that Road America would have been a strong circuit for the Corvette. Obviously a lot of straights, high-speed corners would have suited them well. But it's actually been role reversal. It's quite the opposite. Yeah, coming to the pit lane, obviously an issue going through the kink. That corner catches so many teams out here. Okay, so we have a battle between two lower teams, and this is between the 82 Rookie Monster car, and they're trying to take the position away from the number 5 RFRO car. A 5-second gap between them, so it is doable. 17 minutes left in this race, but they need to, of course, focus and get those lap times in if they're going to catch up to the back of that Porsche 911 rather. Last remaining C7 here this afternoon. Not sure if the Autonauts one is still going. Looks like it, the 32. Yep, still going strong, moving up the order very slowly. Let's have a look at our leaders in class. So the 44 comes in for a splash and dash as predicted. No damage to that car whatsoever. Idles Motorsport about a minute behind. They will need to come into the pit lane as well. Oh, bit of lag there as I guess someone tried to join. And your race leader is in pit lane. So that's going to be just simply having fuel put into the car so he can continue the race and get to the checkered flag. 16 minutes left, and that's plenty of room to play with for the LMP2 cars. And back underway once more. Where is Nick Newcomb? He's just coming on to the main straight now. So despite going into the pit lane, they still have such an advantage that they can retain that race lead. Now Nick Newcomb came into the pit lane at lap 62. So that's when he first got into the car. And we're currently obviously now on lap 79 of this race. So he will need to come into the pit lane in order to get that necessary fuel to get to the end. And Cliff van der Ven will need to do the same, I think. Let's have a look at his last pit stop. Maybe not. He pitted on lap 73, so he is actually only 5 or 6 laps into his current stint. So Cliff van der Ven has already done his last remaining pit stop and is able to get to the end, surely, after pitting on lap 72. That is doable indeed. So now the question is whether or not Nick Newcomb and the Eidos Motorsport team can get into the pit lane fast enough and get back out on track and keep them at bay for the last 15 minutes of this race. This could be a last minute change for second place in class. And oh, Daniel Vidamari there nearly got his rear end tapped there by the Eidos Motorsport car. Of course, the carousel is a bit of a tricky place to overtake, especially as you go down towards the kink as well. It's not the ideal position. It's actually very dangerous if you get it wrong. So when are Eidos Motorsport going to come into the pit lane is the question. There's a slow BMW there on the outside line. Staying out this time by for the number 25. Not decided to come into the pit lane just yet. Can't believe how many DNFs there are. That's crazy. Rain has really taken its toll on the grid here this afternoon for Road America. It's amazing what rain can do. And what's interesting is that most of the casualties occurred once the rain had stopped and we all started to think about intermediates and softs. So it's all about that judgment and knowing when the right time to change is. And for some of the teams, it just didn't quite work out as they expected. And of course, especially for the LMP2 class, at least a lot of the LMP2s, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have, 3 of them have retired. One of them's way off the pace, and these 6 of them are actually on the top of the leaderboards. And even then, the gap between the top 3 is over 90 seconds or so. So that's a fairly substantial gap between all of the cars. Best lap time still belongs to the 69 Hansa Racing team though, which is interesting, with 154.1. Of course, we were speaking to them earlier. They're hoping to finish in P3, but I think that's going to be out of their reach somehow, as they're a lap down from the leaders. Lorenzo Risi back inside that Reborn Racing car. So his teammate has done his 30 minutes, decided, right, you can take it home this time. Of course, we have had a few hairy moments, especially 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, when the 44 actually made a mistake in the last 10 or so 15 minutes of the race and actually continued NASCAR style, steering about 40 to 30 degrees to the left while going down the main straights. They suffered quite a lot of damage, but they still got that thing home to take victory at Road Atlanta. It was quite a scary moment for the team, and of course the 41 was bearing down on them at the time as well in P2 and trying to unlap themselves, but it could have been done, but sadly they were, or as I say sadly, luckily for the 44, they were able to keep it together and get it home in one piece. But this evening though, looks like Lorenzo Risi is firmly in control of this race unless he himself makes a mistake. But 18 seconds separating him and Nick Newcomb in the car behind. So that gap has come down quite sufficiently, but we know that that 25 IDOS machine will need to come into the pit lane for a splash and dash. No questions asked there. And in fact, I think they may be in the pit lane now. Yes, they are. So there's Nick Newcomb for you, your P2 LMP, or your P2 P2 machine. Try saying that 3 times when you're drunk. And in the distance will be Cliff van der Veen in that 3rd place Fair Racing car. He's currently going around the carousel, going towards the kink and Canada corner as well. And if they can't get that machine back underway in time, they will be losing 2nd place in class. Now Cliff van der Veen, we know, is extremely fast. Last lap time for him 1:56.3. That's on pace with what Lorenzo Risi is doing at the moment. And Nick Newcomb is not underway still, and he's come out of Canada corner. 2 corners left to navigate before he is on that main straight. And this is going to be IDOS Motorsport in a bit of trouble here, as he's just getting underway now. So back underway again. He's getting the green light from the steward there on the pit exit, saying, come on, hurry up, go, 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 go. Get up to speed. Nick Newcomb back out on circuit now, but where is Cliff van der Veen? He's coming up into the braking zone of turn 1 now. 3.5 seconds or 5 seconds separating them. I'm always drinking. If you're going to commentate for this long, you have to be insane, and alcohol helps. So into the braking zone for turn 5 he goes. Gap now is 2.5 seconds. Nick Newcomb needs to try everything he can now. It's all or nothing. 7 or just 8 minutes gone before that checkered flag is shown for all involved. So he needs to get the job done as soon as he can. Nick Newcomb, put your foot down, buddy. Get those tyres back up to temperature. Of course, they haven't put new rubber on for obvious reasons. And it's all on him now to get the job done and defend that position as best he can. P2 on the board for 25 will be their best result this season for the team, and he must be feeling the pressure at this stage. 8 minutes remaining. Cliff van der Veen will not have to come into the pit lane. Pretty sure he won't. Last time he came into the pits was lap 72. That is correct, so lap 72, so he will be able to get to the end of this race without any issues, no problem whatsoever. Now starting lap 83 for these cars. You can smell the fumes coming out of the back of that LMP2 car ahead. He knows that he's within striking distance. He knows he's got what it takes to take that P2 away from Eidos Motorsport, coming down once again into that braking zone. And there's a mistake from Nick Newcomb as there's puffs of smoke coming off the front right-hand side of that car. And that's going to cost him precious time that he can ill afford to sacrifice at this moment in time. Keep it together, buddy. You need to do this. 5 minutes, 6 minutes remaining. 6 minutes remaining. The car is slightly turning to the left there in a straight line. Maybe some damage from previous incidents. Coming into the carousel. Still 2 second gap at the moment. Still 2 seconds. So he's only gained 0.2 seconds on the Eidos Motorsport car. And there's Team RSI. Team RSI, our leading GTE, is off the track at the moment. Where is he going to rejoin? Ooh, he's bringing half of the furniture with him. But still, no damage to that car. That's a fairly scary moment for that team. Back to Nick Newcomb and this battle for P2, though. He's got to navigate past Nitrous Oxide Racing. Of course, the 41 car doesn't have to worry about that. He's going to have a nice clean run. Although it would have compromised his exit speed. Now it is 1.3 seconds, not quite close enough to get a slipstream yet, but if he gains just another 0.2 seconds, then he will be within slipstream distance, and that's when that few extra kilometers an hour will make the difference. 4.5 seconds left. Sorry, 4.5 seconds? I must be drunk right now. I must be. 4.5 minutes left in this race. Jesus Christ, Matt. Don't lose it right before the end of the race, because this is when all the good stuff is happening and unfolding in front of us. Oh, he's going to get stuck behind the 40 Eidos car, so that is not good news. Lorenzo Risi setting the fastest lap of the race, 1:54 dead. So they claim, obviously, the fastest lap of this round, and is getting closer. Getting closer. Put the drink down. I must stop. It is a problem. I'll get help after this. But the 41 now getting very close within striking distance. 0.3 seconds as they go through the carousel. You've got the 87 car ahead just there. And the problem with the Eidos car there is going onto the wet line. It's still slightly damp here at Road America as he gets right underneath that rear bumper for the 25. Through the kink they go. Bit of a gap now. 0.2 seconds. Bit of a gap widening. Obviously didn't want to be too close as they go through that fast corner. Three minutes remaining. 1.5 laps. 1.5 laps, ladies and gents, before that checkered flag is flown before them, and it is very close between these two LMP2 cars. Where is our race leader? Lorenzo Risi coming through the kink, so he's got basically an entire lap lead. So we will have another 2 laps here for all involved. Gets through turn 1 without issue. Runs a bit wide though. That's going to bring the 41 into play. This is where he wants to be for the run down towards turn 5. This is the most important corner here at Road America, because it gives you the opportunity to get the good exit, get the speed, and then obviously the braking zone down into that tight left-hand corner. And he's going to go defensive this time by going down. The 41 looks down the outside line and will not get the job done. There's a seizure of tyres and contact made there by the 25. Looks like it was just locking up those front tyres and contact between the two of them. Now Cliff van der Veen will have to think very carefully about where he's going to make the move after that slightly aggressive defensive manoeuvre. I think it was just him trying to be a bit brave under the brakes. Didn't quite work out. Okay, we're at officially 1.5 minutes remaining now in this race. That means that we will be this time by the start-finish line on the final lap. We've got Lorenzo Risi coming down into turn 5, so he will be maybe potentially even another lap after this. Not too sure. It will be actually, yes, another 2 laps from now, because he's just coming down into sector 2 as we speak. Depending on if he can get across that start finish line, it may be another lap after this one. Coming up behind Secure Racing in that BMW. Adam's still in charge of that car. This is a battle for P2, so I'm sure he knows that and will not want to be in the way of this. Coming down into the braking zone of turn 2. They will not be affected by the exit of that GTE. Fingers crossed for the IDOS Motorsport car as he comes up, back up to speed again. Here comes the 41 back on the attack, going on board into the driver's cockpit view. They're both on the right hand side of the circuit. He will go around the outside this time by once again. Same rinse and repeat of last time on the previous lap. This time the 47 gets it. Oh, he's going to get the undercut. What a move from the 41. Predicted that the 25 was going to go deep into the corner and gets the move done. The 25 looks back again, tries to hug it on the inside line, but not able and not close enough in order to take it back whatsoever. This is the 41's chance to simply sprint away now. The 25 has done everything it can to hold on to that P2, but not good enough, as Lorenzo Risi now comes across the start finish line to win here at round 7 of the WSCC. Great performance from that team, handled that wet weather beautifully and was able to just simply drive into the distance from the rest of the teams. Strong performance though from the rest of the LMP2 field, and it's still not over yet for the 41 and the 25. They're still going at each other's throats, but it looks like the 41 has edged a bit of an advantage now, up to 1 second in fact, as they come down into Canada corner. Last 2 remaining corners, he has this in the bag. What a recovery drive from the 41. That is an incredible comeback after the mistakes that they made earlier on when the rain was coming down. They had a few spins themselves, no fault but their own, but what a way to come back in P2, and they will hold on to the back of the championship points there, still staying in second place, but it was important for them to secure that P2 to minimise the damage done here this afternoon. Good result again for the IDOS Motorsport team. Best result this season for them. Nick Newcomb did everything he could to hold that car back. Really strong performance from them, and always good to see a finish like that. And then we have Team RSI. Team RSI coming up in the last few corners as well for their Porsche 911 RSR. Their first victory this season. A bit of the rain, sprinkle of different changing conditions and strategic options, and that's where this team really does thrive. It's when you're put under pressure and you're made to think what is the best tyre, what is the best strategy, and that's why they are going to win here at Road America. Great performance from the car, well done to all involved. And of course in P2 it will be the 39 car, the Chiba Hawk White machine. Great performance from them. And then it will be the 97. Once again, their debut performance here with us at WSCC, and they were leading for a very long time until they had that very substantial amount of damage. Also another good recovery drive from the 88 machine from Secura Racing, went all the way down to P12 after Gregor Spulak crashed and was able to get that into a strong point finishing position. So although the gap will close down between them and the second place standing car, it's getting slightly closer in the GTE championship points. What a race, ladies and gents. All the cars now across the line. It's been a fair few DNFs. The rain has been the defining moment of this race. That cannot be denied by anyone here this afternoon. The rain has made this event. Some have loved it, some have hated it, and of course some have not survived. But for those that did, what a story that they can tell, and they extend their championship hopes over the rest of the team, who sadly aren't able to do the same. But guys, thank you for watching this live stream. This is round 7 of the WSCC Season 2. If you did like this stream, please do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and in 2 weeks' time we will be going to Watkins Glen for a 6-hour race. Will it be sunshine? Will it be rainbows? Will it be a bloody storm? We do not know. We'll have to wait and see what the real weather forecast has in store for them. But whatever happens, Watkins Glen is going to be one you do not want to miss. Thank you all for watching. This is me signing off for tonight and for WSCC. Good night and goodbye.